Mueller.
Adam Curry, John C. Dvorak.
It's Sunday, March 31st, 2019. This is your award-winning Gitmo Nation Media Assassination, episode 1125.
This is No Agenda.
Snap, crackle, pop, free, and broadcasting live from the capital of the Drone Star State here in downtown Austin, Tejas, in the Cludio, in the morning, everybody. I'm Adam Curry.
And from northern Silicon Valley, where the motorcyclists are making a run on this sunny day, I'm John C. Dvorak.
It's Crackpot and Buzzkill in the morning.
Did we miss the Zephyr?
Oh, yeah. By a lot.
By a long shot. Yeah, in the morning to you, sir.
It was actually on time. In the morning to you, and in the morning to all the ships at sea.
Yes. So we're starting a little bit late today for those on the stream, and that is because I spent the entire weekend working on the Crackle issue.
Yes.
Yes. We had severe crackling.
Which was owned by Sony last time I looked.
That's right. Yeah. And let me tell you, this ASIO driver business has got to stop. Someone's got to get this stuff in line and make it work. My goodness.
Well, you were moaning and groaning and trying to fix this. You made an interesting point.
Okay. What
machines even have normal sound I/O anymore?
Well, yeah, exactly. So what I was looking to do, I had to change drivers just so there are people who are interested, because hundreds of you mentioned this, and I appreciate that. And if my reply was curt, that's because hundreds of you said it. But for some reason, I think there was a Windows update, and they messed something up, and they published that, hey, maybe USB devices may not work exactly right anymore. And we expect a fix before the end of March 2019. So I don't know if it was that. I don't know if it was a mismatch in.
It could have been the fix.
It could have been the fix. Yeah, thanks. Whatever it was, I had to get off the professional driver, which is the ASIO, which is great because it provides for all these channels and you can route stuff internally. And I had to go to the Wasapi driver, which I believe is crackle free, but then it doesn't give you all the control you need, or some programs won't have that. And so the radio streamer wasn't working. So we had everything finally working again. And I say, well, now I can just take an output from an analog output and put it into a different laptop and then stream it from there. But, and here's your point, what machine, even the MacBook Air that I have, which I don't know, it's got to be 6 or 7 years old, does not have it has an audio out, but not an audio input. The Microsoft Surface Dock that I have gives you an analog audio output, but no audio input. It's frustrating.
Yeah, audio input seems to be a thing of the past.
Yeah.
Make it work with USB.
Well, that's exactly what I did. So I took my Surface Pro, the Surface Go, and I got a little mini USB audio device that's just, it's no bigger than a USB plug. And then I had to put a connector plug onto that to connect it to USB-C. It's like Legos here, man. It's like Legos.
Well, my advice, don't sneeze.
Yeah, and don't sneeze and don't reboot everything. Well, hopefully the crack will be gone. That was the worst part. And it really affected you. So it's important we fix that. Now, I need to compliment you on bringing something to the show a couple of episodes ago, which has caught fire like I did not expect it to.
That's true.
It's exactly.
That's true.
It's exactly right.
You're the president, and you're sitting across from me right now.
That's true.
I produce more than I promised. True.
It's true.
That's true.
It's true. It's true. It's true. That's such a true story.
Everybody loves. It's true. It's true. Tina and I are saying it to each other all day. Hey, it's true. I think maybe 1 or 2% of the people despise it, but the rest really like it.
Well, you were one of them.
Yeah. Well, I thought people will be annoyed by this, but I was wrong. People love it.
It's true.
It's true. That's true?
Yeah, she probably get it.
But it sounds like it's true. But she's saying that's true.
Well, she does. Yeah, because she's talking like this.
It's true.
Because she wants to act like a little girl, so her mom still loves her.
Yeah.
There's something sick about it. I think that's what the attraction is.
That's true.
Yeah. It's the way she says it, though. That's what it is.
That's true.
That's true. That's true. Do you have any more of the That's True, ladies?
No.
Oh.
The only one I could have picked up, I did have it in the original clips and it was never played, was the one where they're talking to the trees and the grass. Which one of our producers covered in one of the songs.
Yes, yeah.
In fact, they pretty much covered the whole thing.
Sir Seat Sitter did that, yeah.
Seat Sitter. And so that I didn't have. And that was the looniest of all the things they've done, which is this discussion. And they were discussing with the trees, the nature of the dead trees and whether they felt guilty about it. And it was going on and on. It was just like, it was a very borderline, completely nuts. Well, they were as if that was any different than the rest of it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, no, I think we did enough with them.
Yes.
I'll keep track of them.
You never know. You never know.
There might be something coming up.
That's true. Could be. Could just happen. It's true. That's true.
It's true.
All right. So, what did you find for us? I found there were a number of things going on. Actually, maybe. Actually, do you mind if I start with some Brexit?
I would actually. I'm looking at my list because I know you had something on Brexit. I don't think I have anything on Brexit, but I think you have something on Brexit, and I've been following it, and it's becoming funnier and funnier, and I hope that you will enlighten me.
Yes, I shall try. First, so we had two. I was watching since it was all like Mueller. I mean, there's no news in America. The world could
get a time check for that.
The world could be burning down, and yet we would not know about it in the United States of Gitmo Nation. There is no other news except Mueller, Trump, it's true, all of that stuff.
Mueller.
So I switched over to Pluto TV, scanning through the Sky News and RT, and they have some other international channels. And we had, so of course, the 29th, which was Friday. Was that Friday? Yeah, Friday was supposed to be Brexit Day. That was the big day the UK was going to leave. And so people had already planned on going to London and going to Parliament and protesting. It wasn't quite as big as the EU organized Remain, let's have a people's vote with phony handmade signs, a few days before. But it was still thousands of people, and they were rather perturbed that they were not Brexiteering on that day. But Channel 4 was amazed at what kind of people showed up.
And as we speak, there are crowds rallying outside Downing Street. We've just got these pictures in, which were taken nearby. Police are now wearing ruck gear. Police dogs are patrolling. The mood has changed. We cannot confirm whether any arrests have been made. It has been the most extraordinary day. A day which has seen, I've never seen so many white people in one place. It's an extraordinary story.
I've never seen so many white people in one place, I tell you.
Wait a minute, this is a British reporter saying that?
Yes, on Channel 4. Here, this is the last bit again. I'll just play that for you.
Most extraordinary day. A day which has seen, I've never seen so many white people in one place. It's an extraordinary story.
Oh, God. And
that is terrible.
That's how he explains it. Never seen so many white people. Hey, you thought it was bad here? It's all over. This is a globalist mechanism, this calling people racists and anti-Semites and hate crimes. This is not just here. It's everywhere. But I was fortunate enough to catch an interview with Gerard Batten, who is the leader of UKIP, of course, the Brexit party par excellence. And he gives actually some pretty succinct, nice little clips for us that explain, well, I'll start with the first one. This is a backgrounder kind of on how we got here and why we're at this point in history with Brexit.
So, Gerard, today was the day, wasn't it, that we were meant to be leaving the EU in, 2 hours, 15 minutes? Do you sometimes wonder if we'll ever leave?
I do believe that we will leave. I don't believe we'll leave under the current Prime Minister or the current government or Parliament, the way it's constituted, because they don't want to leave. It's as simple as that. We've gone about this entirely the wrong way. First of all, we should never have gone down the Article 50 road to start with. Secondly, when you've got a government and a Prime Minister and a Parliament that doesn't want to leave, then it's very difficult to actually make it happen. That's the big problem that we had. This was put to the British people because the political class couldn't resolve the issue of the European Union over the previous 43 years. So they were forced into a referendum by the UKIP electoral threat, said that they would abide by the result. Everybody said that. Everybody who fought in the 2017 election, well, certainly Conservative and Labour, said that they would implement the result of the referendum. And then since then, they've done everything they possibly can to delay it, impede it, in the hope of eventually overturning it. And that's where we are now.
And I kind of like that succinct summary because it does just take us back for a moment to say, hey, hold on a second. Parliament couldn't figure it out. That's why it went to the people. Everyone promised whatever the people want, we'll do what the people say. And the people said, let's leave. And then everyone went, oh, wait a minute. That's not right. Okay. And then they just delayed and delayed with all these different plans. So instead of stopping the Brexit itself, they just came up with a problem for the way to execute.
Well, he said something that I don't know what it means.
Okay.
At the very beginning, he said, I don't think we should have taken the Section 50, Article 50, whatever that 50 is.
Yes.
Article, I guess.
Article 50.
We shouldn't have taken that route. What other route was there?
The way I understand it, the only other route is just, it's a hard Brexit. You cut it, you say, okay, we're done, we're not paying you anything, and this is what the EU said they would not do in their most recent statement, is have the little mini deals. So you put all these mini deals together, which would be trade, it would be, they already have some things in place. Was that
part of 50?
No. He says, don't do 50. Article.
Yeah, I know. What does that mean? I mean, you don't have to do 50. You just quit.
Yeah. No Article 50. Just quit. Just hard Brexit. Say we're not doing it. And because Article 50 makes you pay, or as he explains in this next clip, the divorce agreement.
Well, I think what they've done is they've actually gone to the European Union and Mrs. Merkel and said, how can we work with you to make sure this doesn't happen? I think that's much more than likely what's happened. If I can take this divorce analogy, which I don't accept, actually, we're never married to them, so it isn't a divorce. The whole thing was unlawful to start with. But what Mrs. May has negotiated is a kind of divorce deal where you live in the same house, you pay the bills, you sleep in the same bed, and you get joint custody of the liabilities. It doesn't sound like much of a divorce to me.
So what would you, if you'd been an MP, what would you have done today?
If I was Prime Minister, I tell you, sorry, I'd much rather play fantasy Prime Minister. But I would have voted against it because Mrs. May said herself many times, no deal is better than a bad deal.
You would have voted against
Absolutely.
Brexit? You would have voted against
No, I would have voted against this phony withdrawal bill.
And in this next clip, I think, comes the answer to your question about doing it without Article 50.
It is only going to happen one way, and that's the way I described in 2014 when I wrote a little book about this. Everything I said in that book has proved to be true about the way this has been delayed and impeded. If you wanted to leave, what you would have done the week after the referendum, and indeed you could still do it now, you could repeal the 1972 European Communities Act. You can say, we've now left under our law. We'll offer you tariff-free trade or WTO, your choice. We'll give you reciprocal rights on citizens. We're not going to pay you any more money, by the way. And then we start to unravel 46 years' worth of legislation. But we take control of that and we repeal and amend according to our priorities and we negotiate with the EU to say, this is how it's going to happen. We want trade, friendship and cooperation, but we set the pace, not you.
Yeah, that's how sovereign nations do it.
Yeah, if you're a sovereign
if
nation.
you're a sovereign nation.
Not if you're a vassal.
Yeah, well, they are. They are. It's so obvious. You know, it just becomes painfully obvious. None of those people actually want to exit the European Union in Parliament.
I was watching, I didn't make a clip of it. I could have. It was because it was kind of dated. I think it came from the March 20th, which was Farage with the Prime Minister of Denmark, that woman that Obama always
the cute one that Obama was sucking up to.
Yeah. And they argued a bit about one thing or another, but she throws in, well, the way we all voted for it, and she made a real point of saying this, we as individual sovereign nations.
Yeah, right.
And it was so apparent that's, it was just like wishful thinking. It's like The United States. I mean, this is kind of for, the idea they've always been jealous of the United States because we started off as a sovereign nations, a little bunch of sovereign nations, and then the Civil War made it clear that no, we're not sovereign nations. We are a republic of states.
Right.
And every state has rights, but you're not a sovereign. Georgia's not a sovereign nation. South Carolina, South Carolina wanted to be a sovereign nation, and it wanted to be a monarchy. I should mention that. And they're the ones who started the Civil War.
Wow, South Carolina?
Yeah, South Carolina.
Lindsey,
if you look at the history of South Carolina, it always wanted to be a monarchy and it wanted to be a sovereign nation.
Lindsey Graham could have been queen. Come on.
It's like you saw the joke coming, and so you threw me. I threw
you enough. I wanted you to say it again.
Wanted me to say it again. Wow. Okay. Anyway, the point is that these aren't sovereign nations anymore. But the differences between like South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama in the 17 and 1800s was not as extreme as the difference between Denmark and Poland and Sweden and these other countries culturally.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's the cultural differences between Germany and France are still pretty profound.
No kidding. Yes.
I mean, so much so that they have been fighting with each other since back in the 1700s or even before, I guess. And I think that these guys just can't pull themselves together. They don't want to. It's so much easier when somebody else does all the heavy lifting for you.
Well, we've always doubted this would happen, and it just seems that it's,
No, we've been right the whole time.
Now they have until April 12th. April 12th is that's the ultimate day. That's the real deal. We counted down, children, 3, 2, 2.5. We keep getting closer to it. So I don't know, but at what point do the human resources of the United Kingdom of Gitmo Nation just take to the streets and get really pissed off?
Or not.
Well, that's it. Exactly.
Well, it's hopeless.
Yeah, it's fantastic, though.
Well, it's for us.
Yeah.
We have to watch this fiasco. Yeah, so I didn't realize that they could have just said, no, we don't need Article 50. We just quit. We're done.
Article 50 is the nice guy way of doing it. It's like, oh, okay, we'll pay you money. We agree. We'll do all this, which is what Article 50 was for.
It was so because it's, I guess, based on the fact that if we're going to quit the EU, we're going to hurt you. Inadvertently, it's going to damage the EU, so we have to make amends. So we do this Article 50 thing. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I didn't have time to grab the clip, but John Bolton was everywhere on the British news, and I didn't see him here at all, which I just didn't have time with all the technical issues. He said, "Hey, if Brexit, if the UK crashes out of the EU, they'll crash right into the US." He says, "We're here. We're ready to do a trade deal with them." Which I'm thinking means, boy, we're going to screw you guys over.
Well, the last laugh's on them because they're the ones who still make the Range Rover.
Yeah. It's a hot ticket item here in Austin, the Range Rover.
Oh, I'll bet it is.
Usually you see it with a dream catcher hanging from the rearview mirror. Then you know you're in Austin.
That would be right.
Yeah, you're there. All right, so there was still lots of people just getting really upset about the Mueller report. And, I have another Supercuts. I've been waiting for this. One of those...
we
just call them Supercuts.
Almost every show for the last 3 or 4 shows.
But this is a new one. This is Brennan. So we know that the last thing we heard from Brennan, John Brennan, former CIA chief, was, well, maybe I got some bad information. But it's nice to listen to everything he said leading up to that point.
Paul Manafort is one of the first characters who could have been perhaps planted there or placed there as a Russian agent. Is that implausible to you?
No, it's not implausible.
You believe Russia has something on him?
Russians, I think, have had long experience with Mr. Trump and may have things that they could expose.
Is that speculation, or are you talking with information?
No, I'm saying that perhaps the Russians have something. What is in Donald Trump's past that the Russians have and might use against him? I think Mr. Trump is, for whatever reason, either intimidated by Mr. Putin, afraid of what he could do. Maybe there's something there, that the Russians may have something on him personally. That's why I use the term that this is nothing short of treasonous, because it is a betrayal of the nation.
You go to the word treason. It suggests that you think the president may be serving a foreign country rather than our own.
Well, yeah, he is giving aid and comfort to the enemy.
You are the former CIA director accusing the sitting president of the United States. It's not a private citizen. A lot of people hear the former CIA director accusing the sitting president of the United States of treason. That's a monumental accusation.
Well, I think these are abnormal times. That Mr. Trump's claims of no collusion are hogwash is because there is collusion, I think, in open sight now. I have seen the lights blinking red in terms of what Mr. Trump has done and is doing. So if anybody from the Trump family, an extended family, is going to be indicted, it would be in the final act of Mueller's investigation. And I think that's why he's been so desperate to stop the Mueller investigation. He is going to be delivering what I think are going to be his indictments, the final indictments, as well as the report that he gives to the Attorney General. Well, I don't know if I received bad information, but I think I suspected that there was more than there actually was.
Yeah, I think so, John Brennan. So we've got him on record. But interestingly, that's not who the president was going after in his big Grand Rapids, Michigan rally, which he did on Friday.
Little pencil neck Adam Schiff. He's got the smallest, thinnest neck I've ever seen. He is not a long ball hitter.
Well, Schiff got, this is rare that this ever happens, but Schiff got excoriated by the Republicans on the
Intel Committee.
I do have two clips.
Okay, good.
I don't have the whole thing. It goes over 3 minutes of them condemning him, but I do have the end of it, which kind of gets to the point. And this is, where is this clip?
Schiff's response?
No, the response is the second clip. Oh.
End of slam against Schiff. Here we go.
Yes, this is Conway, I think, or one of the senators reading from the statement that all the Republicans signed, and nobody would look Schiff in the eye during this whole little back and forth.
Special Counsel Mueller's findings are consistent with those of this committee, as well as the public statements of various senators on the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Despite these findings, you continue to proclaim to the media that there is significant evidence of collusion. You further have stated you will continue to investigate the counterintelligence issues. That is the president or people around him compromised in any way by hostile foreign power? Your willingness to continue to promote a demonstrably false narrative is alarming. The findings of the special counsel conclusively refute your past and present assertions and have exposed you as having abused your position to knowingly promote false information, having damaged the integrity of this committee and undermined the faith in the United States government and its institutions. Your actions, both past and present, are incompatible with your duty as chairman of this committee, which alone in the House of Representatives has the obligation and authority to provide effective oversight of the U.S. intelligence community. As such, we have no faith in your ability to discharge your duties in a manner consistent with your constitutional responsibility and urge your immediate resignation as chairman of the committee. Mr. Chairman, this letter is signed by all 9 members of the Republican side of the House, of the committee, and I ask unanimous consent to be entered into the record of today's hearing.
Now, what would would a chairman typically resign when one entire side? It doesn't sound like it to me. That's why I ask. When one
he doesn't have to, but I'll tell you this: I've never seen this before.
Where an entire side. We didn't have any of this during Benghazi, where Republicans went off, anything like that.
No.
Okay.
I've never seen this before. This is news to me. I mean, I have to do a little research if this happened before and what happened. But I'll tell you this, Schiff was beside himself.
Yes, he was.
And he was very upset. And I do have a little bit of his response to this. And I can just say it goes on and on and on with some. It's very canned. And he never defends himself. That's the thing about it. He just attacks Trump.
Without objection.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm just saying I think it was very, but he was not happy. And I think I don't know what he's going to do.
Without objection. I'm going to turn to our witnesses who are the subject of the hearing today, but
Before I do, and as you have chosen, instead of addressing the hearing to simply attack me, consistent with the president's attacks, I do want to respond in this way. My colleagues may think it's okay that the Russians offered dirt on the Democratic candidate for president as part of what was described as the Russian government's effort to help the Trump campaign. You might think that's okay. My colleagues might think it's okay that when that was offered to the son of the president, who had a pivotal role in the campaign, that the president's son did not call the FBI. He did not adamantly refuse that foreign help. No, instead, that son said that he would love the help of the Russians. You might think it's okay that he took that meeting. You might think it's okay that Paul Manafort, the campaign chair, someone with great experience in running campaigns, also took that meeting. You might think it's okay that the president's son-in-law also took that meeting. You might think it's okay that they concealed it from the public. You might think it's okay that their only disappointment after that meeting was that the dirt they received on Hillary Clinton wasn't better. You might think that's okay.
You know, when I saw that speech, it was the cadence and the timing was so interesting. Just, he just rolling down. I'm like, oh man, this is going to be perfect for end of show. And I can't wait to play Tom Starkweather.
I don't think that's okay.
He has a that's a great ISO too. He has a great end of show mix of Schiff doing all this.
Yeah, I did.
So yeah, I guess he didn't think it was okay.
But
he's the hero.
This is, that Lib Joes would probably say that. Now, I did watch and I recommended people could listen to it. It was a half hour. I took only 4 clips, but one of them's long. The rest of them are pretty short. 4 clips of this guy, David K. Johnstone.
Ah, yes. This is what you put in the newsletter.
Yeah, I wanted people to listen to it because it's pretty good. It was interesting to me because it was 2 very progressive liberals arguing with each other, as opposed to, a balance of one side laughing and the other side. They're both. Now, Johnstone makes a living out of writing anti-Trump books. He did win a Pulitzer once.
I was going to say, both he and Greenwald are both Pulitzer Prize winners, which made it all the more entertaining.
Yes. So I have a series of clips starting off with just Johnston going on about, what he never he's one of the guys that's rewriting the Mueller report and trying to imagine one thing or another. And these 4 clips are just actually fascinating, especially when at the very end, Greenwald just lets it rip. But here's Greenwald Johnson 1.
David, your response to the Mueller report and to William Barr's summary of what he found.
Well, we don't know what's in the Mueller report. We only know the brief interpretation offered by Bill Barr. But that interpretation opens whole new cans of worms. The standard here should not be beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the criminal standard. The standard is the constitutional requirements, which are faithful execution of the office and high crimes and misdemeanors, which doesn't require any criminal offense of any kind, as the 18 impeachment proceedings we've had in this country have established beyond a doubt.
Glenn Greenwald, your response.
Let me just say 2 things. Number one, everybody knows, and I don't care how many people try and rewrite history, that the central question that everybody was obsessed with for 3 years was, did Donald Trump, his family members, and his aides conspire and collaborate and collude with the Russians to interfere in the election? And contrary to what David just said, it is absolutely false that Robert Mueller simply said there's not enough evidence to convict with a reasonable doubt. He said something much, 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 much more important than that.
Any collusion?
He said that after 20 months of investigation, with a huge team of FBI agents and prosecutors heralded as being the most aggressive and skilled in the world, we found no evidence that this happened. That's what Robert Mueller said. The whole thing was a scam and a fraud from the beginning. And the New York Times headline today says that as clearly as it can. Robert Mueller finds no collusion between Trump and Russia. That was the focal point of the entire narrative, no matter how much people try and change the focus.
Yes.
So he starts off with that, and then it starts to go. He continues a bit with some more details. This is clip 2.
He's distorting what our findings was. That is laughable. That's exactly the kind of conspiracy theories that led to this entire mess in the first place, and we should no longer tolerate this. Rachel Maddow and MSNBC are the Judy Millers of this story, except unlike Judy Miller, who was scapegoated for doing things that her male colleague did and had her career destroyed, Rachel Maddow will continue to make $10 million a year for NBC because she's their most valuable brand, and there will be no reckoning in consequences for this story that the media got radically, fundamentally, and deliberately wrong for almost 3 years now in a very dangerous way.
He makes the point that it's just, causing tensions between Russia and the United States. Let's go to clip 3.
Donald Trump is an agent. I said he's an asset. If I did say agent, I should not have, but I've said repeatedly.
Stop. This continues after Greenwald called out Johnston for calling Trump a Russian agent about 1 week before on the Democracy Now! Show, which he appears on constantly.
Right.
On the Democracy Now! Show, Johnston said Trump is a Russian agent. And so Greenwald called him out on this, and this is his response.
Donald Trump is an agent. I said he's an asset. If I did say agent, I should not have. But I've said repeatedly, he is what the old Soviet would call a useful idiot. He has advanced their cause. He called during the campaign for breaking up NATO. That's a Putin item. He has said he trusts Vladimir Putin and not the American intelligence agencies. Those should all be things that deeply disturb us. And if the Mueller report, when we see it, shows that this is all malarkey, have me on and I'll say, you know what, got it totally wrong, because I go wherever the facts go. But I don't think the news media in this country has been totally discredited. And I noticed that Glenn's focus is on one cable TV show. By the way, I think I've been on once since Donald Trump's election on Rachel Maddow when I got the tax return of Donald Trump from 2005. I don't appear on her show otherwise. And so I think fundamentally we do need to focus on the real economic issues. Donald Trump wants to make health care in America worse. He has not fulfilled any of his promises. There's no infrastructure bill. There is this focus on the wall with Mexico, which is never going to be built and certainly not paid for by the Mexicans. He has stirred violence against people of color and people whose religions he doesn't like. And he is utterly and completely unfit to hold office. He is, in the classic meaning of the Greek word, an idiot, which originally meant someone who only cares about himself and has no regard for the society around him.
David, on the show last week, you did say Russian agent, that Donald Trump is a Russian agent. Are you saying you misspoke?
I should have said asset. That's a mistake by me. And asset is the term that I've used. And I do believe that, you can unwittingly be an asset. And I believe that Donald Trump is a Russian asset. I think the kindest thing you can say about Donald Trump is that he has divided loyalties.
Fact check.
That's true.
Now, this is funny because he goes on and about how he only follows the facts, and then he blatantly lies about saying Russian agent.
Oh, it was a mistake. He meant to say asset.
then he rewrites history right there.
What a dick.
But he's not addressing the Mueller report at all.
No, but what he's doing is he's going back to he's a racist, misogynist, anti-Semitic.
The Trump rotation.
Yeah, just stuff that has been.
It's got nothing to do with the Mueller report.
Pulitzer Prize winner, ladies and gentlemen. Pulitzer Prize winner. All these guys.
So at this point, Greenwald is fed up. And I think this clip 4 is the best of the group.
Yeah, but let me just say one thing about this idea that he's a Kremlin asset, or that we need to find out what his relationship is with the Russians. We just had a 22-month investigation where the media and Bob Mueller did nothing but look into that exact question. He's saying it like nobody's ever asked this before, we have the answer. And as for him being a Russian asset, it's so irresponsible to say that, because the reality is that the conflict between the U.S. and the Russians are at a worse and higher level than they've been in many years, probably literally decades. How can you say Donald Trump is a stooge of the Kremlin when he's right now trying to remove one of Vladimir Putin's client regime states in Venezuela, or when he's trying to bully Angela Merkel out of buying Russian natural gas, probably the thing that's most important to the Russian economy, or when he sold lethal arms to the Ukrainians, something Obama refused to do on the grounds that it would be provocative to Russia, or when he bombed Putin's client state in Syria. Over and over, the Trump administration has taken actions far more adverse and aggressive and belligerent to the Russians than the Obama administration did. That's why this whole narrative that Trump all along was being blackmailed by Putin, that he's an asset of Russian intelligence. This is idiocy. It is completely irrational. It is contrary to all facts. And Bob Mueller's investigation, who spent 22 months examining that core question, what is the relationship between Trump and the Russians, concluded that there is no relationship. It's time to stop these dangerous conspiracy theories that are ratcheting up tensions between the two most dangerous countries on the planet. The reality is the Trump administration has been constantly belligerent to Putin, has constantly acted adverse to the Kremlin's interests, and there's zero basis for thinking or believing or finding evidence to assert that Trump in any way is beholden to Vladimir Putin and to Russia. The whole thing has been a joke and a fairy tale from the start.
He'll never work in this town again. I'm amazed they let him on. Seriously. I mean, hey, Glenn, you just harshen the vibe, man, here at Democracy Now!, baby. You know, you can't bring that. He did. There was another segment. I encourage everyone to watch the whole half hour, as you did in the newsletter. He went on for a good 3 minutes about how much he hates Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Greenwald.
Oh, yeah.
did.
No, his Donald Trump hatred is quite noticeable.
Now, I looked at some other media bits, which I thought were interesting in regards to this. Called out by name checked along with all his other favorite Fox News hosts and celebrities, which is just fantastic. The president is unabashedly a Fox News fan, which doesn't make him look, biased towards any type of media. And of course, Fox doesn't consider themselves mainstream. They'll say on Fox, they're saying, oh, well, mainstream media is saying this or that. Well, you guys have the number one rating, so I'd say you are the mainstream. But he said, oh, she's back. Judge Janine is back.
Oh, good old Judge Janine.
When someone lies to you, do you just say, don't worry about it, I'll get over it? Well, that's not how our system works. There has to be accountability. There has to be a consequence. Because as the president himself said, this should never happen again. And I can guarantee you it will happen again. Unless we make an example of the traitorous, treasonous group that accused Donald Trump of being an agent of the Russian government. And as they spewed their hate, I want to know who did the unmasking, who did the leaking. And if we don't have a consequence, if people at the highest level of government are not held responsible for this, it is a blueprint for a future effort to overthrow the government. Don't be satisfied with the Mueller report. This is bound to happen again because these arrogant, lying, condescending, leaking haters of you and me and the America that doesn't have power are going to do it again unless we stop them. And the only way to stop them is with justice, true justice. And that's behind the bars justice.
Judge Janine.
Wow.
Her hair looked good. She had a whole good vibe about her, but a little unhinged. A little unhinged. And I doubt that
she's always been unhinged.
I have a couple more clips here, but just briefly since she was talking about it. Here are the names that I'm focusing on because there's some names missing from, well, certainly from the conversation, and I doubt these names will be in the Mueller report. The first one I'm going to say is Paul Singer. Remember Paul Singer?
Remind me.
Multi-billionaire hedge fund guy.
Vaguely.
He funded Romney. He funded Rubio. And he's good friends with Mike Shields from CNN, who's married to Katie Walsh. Katie Walsh she's neocon side, but she came in. I think she did Trump's transition team. He kept her on. I think maybe he wanted to get rid of her. Pence brought her back. But she and her husband, Mike Shields, they got married at 10, or he proposed to her at 10 Downing Street. So this what kind of connections do you have over there? So I think there's an MI6 connection that we're still missing.
Oh, yes. Yes, I think you're absolutely correct. And I think that Steele report and a lot of this other stuff, there's something going on with MI6.
Katie Walsh, George Washington University, I have my eye on her. And also, and Romney and this Kingmaker, Paul Singer, there's a lot of involvement. Anyway.
Yeah, Romney is definitely a bad actor.
Oh, Romney had something to do with it. We just haven't heard it yet. So last night, although it's a little late for me, but I like to see the opening sequence, Saturday Night Live. And everyone's on this trip about, this is just a summary. This is not really the real report. We need to see the report because that's where we have all the information, all of the actual collusion that took place that just didn't quite fit the bar high enough, so we couldn't quite get an indictment on Trump. And so they set it up with De Niro being Mueller. And Mueller was reading, what he wrote. Of course, we don't know what he wrote, so that's why it was so interesting. Because they have Robert De Niro as Mueller saying things we don't know if it's actually in the report.
Yeah, we know how De Niro feels about it anyway. But I want to mention one thing. There was a little back and forth with Johnstone and Greenwald about this similar situation. Mm-hmm. And Greenwald mentioned that Barr and Mueller are best friends back into the George H.W. Bush era and all that. And buddies, running buddies. And he said that, don't you think that anybody within the Mueller team or Mueller himself would have said anything if what Barr's summarized wasn't right on the money?
Seems like a logical thing to have happen, but
yeah, the problem is logic is elusive.
It's gone. Yeah.
Logic is elusive.
Logic is elusive. That's a bumper sticker.
It is.
It may not be very popular, but I like it. Logic is okay. So the setup again is De Niro, and he's Mueller, and he's writing his report, and then we have it go straight to Barr, and then Barr makes his version of it, and then Trump, of course, just says no collusion the whole time. So it's kind of how the information is passed down. But I found it interesting because they are putting words into the Mueller report, which you've not seen before. And yeah, it's a comedy show, but it is rather propagandistic.
Dear Attorney General Barr, officials from the Justice Department. And
by the way, I've noticed this. Robert De Niro, one of the best actors, apparently, of our time. I've never seen him on SNL not flub a line. The guy can't get his lines right.
I noticed this too.
Always flubbing.
Dear Attorney General Barr, officials from the Justice Department, and esteemed members of Congress.
Hey guys, William Barr here. You might want to sit down for this one.
Guess what? Daddy is about to freak. I am submitting these 380 pages.
I am writing almost 4 pages.
I am reading 0 pages. But Sean Hannity has read it, and he was so excited that he texted me an eggplant. On the charge of obstruction of justice, we have not drawn a definitive conclusion.
But I have, and my conclusion is Trump's clean as a whistle.
Free at last, free at last. As for conspiracy or collusion, there were several questionable incidences involving the president's team, but we cannot prove a criminal connection.
See, that to me, it's sneaky, because people will remember that and say, well, the report said that because, just like Sarah Palin never said, I can see Russia from my house. That was
Tina Fey.
Tina Fey who said that. But people to this day believe that Sarah Palin said it. So now what Saturday Night Live puts in here with the Mueller report.
It's very irresponsible to do this, by the way.
It's comedy.
Last, free at last. As for conspiracy or collusion, there were several questionable incidences involving the president's team, but we cannot prove a criminal connection.
No collusion, no diggity, and no ballot.
However, we have indicted 34 individuals in connection with this probe.
Most of them very good people.
The pardons are already in the mail.
All right. So, yeah, and it went on. It was okay. Then they tried to do a Smollett bit, which wasn't funny at all. But then I switched over to NPR on the media. And this is interesting because it's a media show about the media, also about themselves. And they had all the reporters out, and they're talking about this report. And I think this is a very good example of the thinking within the journalistic community about the report that we need to see and why we need to see it.
I guess there are a lot of people, Natasha Bertrand, who would say, what? I mean, doesn't the Mueller report end this question of collusion? Adam Schiff can continue to bring it up for political reasons, but hasn't that question now been answered by the special counsel in this report?
No, absolutely not. I think that's totally...
No. That's good. No.
The question now been answered by the special counsel in this report.
No, absolutely not. I think that's totally... incorrect, actually. I think that the question of whether or not Mueller found enough evidence to charge the campaign with a criminal conspiracy with Russia is not the be-all, end-all of this question of whether or not the president himself was at any point compromised by the Russians, whether any members of his campaign were compromised by the Russians during the election, and what explains the president's kind of continued deference towards Russian President Vladimir Putin and the secrecy that has for so long surrounded their conversations and their interactions. So I think that, when we apply criminal standards to counterintelligence findings, then we might be kind of missing the point. And this is what national security and intelligence experts have been telling me about the importance of getting the full report, the full Mueller report, to figure out what evidence that he amassed over the last 2 years of his investigation that went beyond whether or not a crime was actually committed. Because when we look at it through that narrow lens, we're unable to explain so much of the campaign's behavior and of the president's behavior during the election, especially, the question of why so many people, and Trump himself, lied about their interactions with Russia during the election.
So there it is. It's the behavior. And it's kind of where it started. He's not behaving presidential. This is not good behavior. So now it's back to behavior. And look, man,
wait, she said Trump lied about interaction. When did Trump lie about the Russians?
I don't know. Look, what we're not going to forget is that Mueller's report was supposed to be the end. That was it. And you heard her right there. No. But of course, she also talks to the intelligence community. She's talking to all these guys. You heard her.
Spies love talking to the media because it never shows up in their lie detector test.
Well, also the circular reporting that we now know has been affected upon us, where you create news, you leak it to the media, then the media reports on it, then you go back and say, hey, look, the media's reporting on it. We should look into this.
Yep.
So she spoke to the intelligence community, and they're quite pleased, actually.
Natasha Bertrand, tell us about your reporting on that. Is that the danger you see, this sort of doubling down by Russia as we move toward 2020?
Yeah, absolutely. And experts say that this actually may embolden them. They completely ignored the findings in Barr's summary, not going to say Mueller's report, because, again, we don't know what's in it, but the findings that Barr laid out that Mueller found, that Russia did interfere in the election in two big ways, through their information warfare and through hacking the Democrats.
No proof of either one, but okay.
And I was talking to the former CIA director, Mike Morrell, the other day, and he said, look, this is actually a big win for the intelligence community because it is the second entity outside of the IC that has actually confirmed their findings, their early findings from January of 2017, that Russia did in fact interfere in the election. And that, I think, is the big picture that we need to stay focused on as well as we go into 2020.
There it is.
Because the Russians are not being deterred on any of this in any meaningful way.
Yeah. Because we'll use it as an excuse for any type of contest that we don't like. Oh, the Russians, they're still doing it. And then finally, they go to calls.
How does she jump from the report, the Mueller report, to something Morell told her as confirmation? I mean, this is exactly what Glenn Greenwald was talking about.
That's exactly what he's talking about. Well,
it is insane.
It gets funnier.
But okay, we'll play.
So here's your typical or maybe not so typical NPR listener. They're taking some calls. He calls in.
Hello, I don't support virtually 90% of what Trump represents, but I think the greatest danger here is actually the disinformation and the psychological warfare that is being perpetrated by our own intelligence agencies. And I recommend people check globalresearch.ca and look up the phrase CIA Operation Mockingbird control of the media. And I believe that there's a desperate attempt by the military-industrial complex and the CIA's control of the media, and I would include NPR in this.
Okay, John. Thank you very much for calling.
And he's gone.
If I could just...
And he's gone. He's like, I would include NPR in Project Mockingbird, and you're off the air, John. I'm sorry.
NPR in this.
Okay, John. Thank you very much for calling.
If I could just say,
please, Molly, go ahead.
Globalresearch.ca is a Kremlin-funded disinformation think tank, so let's just put that off the list of things people need to read. It's well documented. You can look that up online.
No, it's on Wikipedia. I'm sure.
Look it up online.
You could look it up online. It's on Wikipedia. Busted. Well, wow. That's a Kremlin funded. The guy gets a check, a ruble check every week. And that was a Trump hater. The guy calls us, I disagree with 95% everything that the president does, but you guys are, be careful with this.
Well, I mean, Glenn Greenwald's a Trump hater, but he can't put up with it either.
No.
It's out of control. It's almost as though I don't even know why. I've been trying to think maybe this is all a grand scheme dreamed up by Trump to distract from all the evil doing he's actually up to. Which is kind of what Greenwald implies. But it's so crazy. And what is the end game for the intelligence agencies or MI6?
Survival.
Or whoever's behind all this nonsense?
Survival. I think it's survival.
They don't have any problem with survival.
The people at the top do. The people who are running these scams, these pencil pushers. Yeah, I'm sure.
I would like to know, by the way, because I read two reports. One said that Brennan did indeed have his security clearance taken away.
Mm-hmm.
Was it? Do we know that for a fact?
I thought so, but I have no. How would I know for sure?
That would make him irked.
Oh, the guy's irked. I don't understand.
I got this one. My last clip about this is the report versus Nadler and Barr. This was on CBS-N.
Well, the DOJ insists a redacted version is necessary for national security purposes to protect sources and methods in ongoing investigations. But Democrats on judiciary committees say they deal with sensitive material all the time and that they should first be given an unredacted version to review and then work with the DOJ to redact that sensitive information before ultimately making the report public. Rena?
The battle continues. Mola, thank you very much. Julia Manchester's a reporter for The Hill. She joins me now from Washington. Okay, so Julia, William Barr said he's going to reportedly testify. He announced this in a letter before the Senate and House Judiciary Committee early May. But House Judiciary Chairman Jerry Nadler is sticking to his April 2nd deadline for an unredacted report. Clearly, we're not going to meet this deadline. How do you see this playing out on Capitol Hill?
I think there's going to be a lot of push and pull between Capitol Hill and the Justice Department. It's only going to end up in more pressure between the two sides on this. We've seen that Democrats really from the get-go really set the April 2nd deadline. Ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Dianne Feinstein, set an April 1st deadline. So I think William Barr knew what he was walking into. However, from his point of view, there is lots of information in this nearly 400-page report that includes national security concerns, as well as information that could be politically damaging to some officials. So from his perspective, there might have been nitpicking things that he needed to take out in order to make the report appropriate for the public.
Sure.
So this is going to be interesting to watch this. And we know that, one of the reasons that the entire Republican Party turned on Schiff is because they didn't put us in the laundry list of complaints. They may have hinted. He's the leaker.
Schiff?
Yeah, Schiff is a leaker and a liar. He leaks and he was you might as well just have a direct connection to the media. And it's believed that Nadler and his boys are also leakers because they're trying to, this is all so they can get Trump out in 2020.
Do they? What surprises me?
Put in, that's the problem.
What surprises me is they really believe that they can get him out, or are they really just running interference until the election? Look.
Wait, stop. Yes, of course they believe they can get him out. The way they see it. And I refer to my lib-joes on this too. The guy's a rapist. He is like this terrible person that has to go, and there's no way that the American public won't see this and then oust him at the first opportunity now that they've seen what a mess he is.
So that
is exactly what they think.
What are your LibJoe friends saying?
That's what they're saying, what I just said.
That he's a rapist and that's why they'll get him? That's their angle?
Things.
That's their angle? He's a rapist?
He's a rapist. All the thing I sent them the list, the Trump rotation, which they've never seen. And one of them says, "Oh, I don't see one flaw in that list,
except the rapist thing, which is
it's a great list of everything wrong with him."
Trump. At TrumpRotation.com is where you can find it.
TrumpRotation.com.
Yeah, no, it's just just TrumpRotation.com.
TrumpRotation.com.
We don't have rapist on the list.
I think so.
No, he says all Mexicans are rapists. No, rapist. No, you're right. Rapist. It's on there. Yeah, rapist is on there, right under admitted molester.
Yeah.
An anti-Semite, hates gays, homophobic. So it's what a good list. TrumpRotation.com, which takes you to the Kremlin-backed Cosmic Weenie website. We were talking about the ratings being down for MSNBC and CNN, and I have an Associated Press report. Maddow, other MSNBC hosts see ratings drop, Fox up. So it wasn't just something I heard. Associated Press they're supposed to be kind of impartial.
Well, supposed to be.
Maddow's audience has dipped on her 2 days back on the air since Attorney General William Barr reported that Special Counsel Robert Mueller had found no collusion. Her audience of 2.5 million on Monday was 19% below her average this year. It went down further to 2.3 million on Tuesday, according to Nielsen. And then they say Fox is up. So we'll see how that is next week. But it is possible that the audience is fatigued of this. And then you have a real problem. But you said CNN is really trying to get away from it. They have meetings.
I think CNN is moving a little bit. They're not moving as fast as, pretty much anybody. New York Times moves faster. But I think so, yeah. I think they're trying to get away from it just because it's an albatross at this point. Well, they'll go right back to it as soon as the full report comes out.
Report comes out, yeah.
They'll start reading between the lines and saying, well, he could have done this, he could have done that.
So here's what happens. We get Brexit on April 12th, and then...
No, we don't.
Well, I'm sorry, you're right. What am I even thinking? But we won't even hear about it. We won't know about it. We won't. I guess Joe Biden got taken out. They hit him hard.
Well, I do have some Biden clips that can
Well, here's the hit, Dub. A quick 21-second explanation.
A candidate for lieutenant governor in Nevada is speaking out about former Vice President Joe Biden. In a blog post for New York Magazine, Lucy Flores claims that Biden placed his hands on her shoulders and kissed the back of her head without her permission. On Friday, a spokesperson for Biden said that allegations like these should be taken seriously, but that the former vice president does not remember this incident.
Well,
do not recall.
Biden appears to be the Jimmy Savile.
That's taking it very far. Okay. Yeah.
Now, Democracy Now! Did a little bit of a hit job on him, minor, I might add, with the clip here is the Biden douchebag Anita Hill hearing, because he's trying to backpedal on some of his stuff that he used to do that they figures he can get condemned for. But if you listen between the lines here, you hear a little kind of an interesting little needle in this report.
Former Vice President Joe Biden said Tuesday he regretted his role in confirmation hearings for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas in 1991. During the hearings, Anita Hill, an African-American woman who worked as a lawyer for Clarence Thomas, was questioned by an all-male, all-white Senate Judiciary Committee over her allegations that Thomas had sexually harassed her in the workplace. Speaking at a ceremony for the Biden Courage Awards in New York Tuesday evening, Joe Biden condemned a white man's culture for not taking Hill's claims seriously.
I knew a lot less about the extent of harassment back then, over 30 years ago. But she paid a terrible price. She was abused through the hearing. She was taken advantage of. Her reputation was attacked. I wish I could have done something.
Biden's comments drew widespread condemnation, with many social media commentators noting Biden was chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee at the time of Anita Hill's testimony. Joe Biden has launched a new political action committee ahead of a widely expected announcement. He'll seek the Democratic nomination for the presidency in 2020.
Now, I don't know, man, but yeah, this woman, what's her name?
Anita Hill?
No, Lucy Flores.
Oh.
This smells of Hillary.
Oh.
This is not new. This is not something new. This is 2014. This is 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Let me see. Why it just smells, and she's from Nevada, so that doesn't mean it's any connection to Hillary here. Let me see.
There's probably some.
Send out an email. No. Well, it just smells of Clinton. This is what the Clintons do, always getting people on sex stuff. That's what they love. That's because they're embarrassed about their, projection, about whatever the crazy stuff they're doing on the Lolita Express.
Now, I have one other Joe Biden clip which I've been holding on to, and this is a crackpot theory about Biden that was expressed on that network that we.
One America News?
Yeah.
Which is family owned. I was right about that.
That's what I said.
No, you said it wasn't. You horrible man. Stop it.
This family owned thing has got this kind of very aggressive anchors that are just constantly lecturing you. They're all school marm types.
Yes.
And they're always shaking their finger at the audience. But let's go with this. Listen to this. This is the craziest thing I've ever heard.
The One American Network is what people who hate Fox think that's what Fox is. You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
These are very conservative. I think there's a strong Christian component to the network.
Oh, definitely.
So and it's family owned, and they look like they've all been inbreeding just a little bit.
The eyes aren't positioned.
Eyes aren't positioned right. That's the network.
John Brennan is a mutant, and he got the Amber Light from Biden, and he ran with it.
Wait a minute, who is this speaking?
This is one of the many weird characters they have. I didn't write his name down, but he's got this thesis that Brennan is working for Biden.
Oh, okay.
A lot of mistakes. Most importantly, he worked with our foreign allies to try to set up Trump. And, this has filtered down into all of the Trump family. This was a Biden operation like no other against a candidate who was not expected to win, but they wanted to make sure that they destroyed him before he had the opportunity to do so.
Why is it, you think, that when we hear about these meetings, when we hear about Spygate, the focus is so much placed, of course, on John Brennan because he had an operational role, Comey later because of the FISA process. Why is it that Biden hasn't really been brought into the story at this point?
I don't know. Very often, powerful people with that much experience and background in the intelligence field are able to provide people like Brennan and Lynch who, committed crimes, but provide or make them scapegoats.
Another person at the meetings that would have been there as a statutory member, of course, would be the Secretary of State. This is John Kerry. What role did John Kerry play, and what was his relationship with Biden during this?
John Kerry allowed Jonathan Weiner and Sidney Blumenthal to provide Christopher Steele entree into the State Department. But John Kerry was deathly afraid of Joe Biden for whatever reason. And Joe Biden carried a lot of power.
Well,
now he's making Biden sound like Dick Cheney.
Yeah.
Which I think makes the, I think that connects with people. Nobody thinks Cheney, but when you start talking about a vice president that's doing anything other than nothing, you begin to think of Dick Cheney. And so I Biden has a lot of power. Biden's running the spy networks.
Well, look,
working for Biden. This would have come up.
If we go back to the thesis that this was a mop-up, this was a cleanup operation because Comey failed and he mopped up the email story but did it inappropriately and stupidly, and so he got canned. Then that put everything at risk. Now, we know the one guy who actually could make trouble, it was Manafort. That's why Manafort's in jail. The people who were problematic go away. So Manafort, definitely problematic in Ukraine with Russians, with Podesta, with the whole Obama State Department clique when they were F the EU and changing the government there. So there's stuff going on with him.
He was suspicious, as you recall, when he first showed up out of the blue in the Trump campaign.
Well, you know who recommended him? Was Paul,
I forgot. I do know.
No, it's Paul Singer. That's the whole. Well, it was Robert Stone. Roger Stone was kind of the shepherd, but Paul Singer. This is the guy who pushed him forward. This is that business guy, the guy behind Romney. Which is why I'm surprised that there's a thought about Joe Biden being anything. But clearly Brennan is being left to hang out to dry. I don't think he's put enough rope around his neck. Schiff, I don't know. It's minor. No, I think there's still a big connection that has not even been mentioned. So we'll just have to see. We'll have to see. But Biden, no, I don't think so. But he's been taken out. Biden is out.
No, he's not.
Of course he's out. He cannot overcome the creepy old man thing. It's everywhere.
He is going to, now on the list that we have, contenders underline 2020s. Cosmic Weenie / contenders.
It's a Russian disinformation site.
2020. Biden is the number one candidate still.
Okay, but that's that's your list.
Yeah.
My Cosmic Bunny here says that this is.
You don't have Cosmic Bunny.
I will. It's this was a hit job. He's been taken out. This is done. This is everywhere. He's creepy. We still have debates coming up.
He's always been creepy.
I know, but now someone said it. We've all know that he's been creepy, but now someone said it. Now it's out there.
He's just friendly.
Anyway, we have Eric Holder, who has been very quiet for a while. Holder.
All of a sudden, he's showing up.
Yes, and I have a little clip.
Well, that, by the way, if once you notice he's showing up after the Mueller report.
Yep.
And that means the cleanup is over.
Yes.
We got you covered. You can come out of you can come out from under your hole now.
And he's the former attorney general under President Obama, and he doesn't think the Constitution is much.
Well, and I'll stick with this issue, but I'll also say I think we ought to do away with the Electoral College. We have a system now that was it's a defect in our democracy. We have had in the last.
Hold on. It's a defect to democracy. That's why we're a republic. But it depends on on how you want to define democracy, or I don't know if you said our democracy, but it's a defect.
It's a defect in our democracy.
In ours.
We have had in the last 5 elections 2 presidents who did not win the popular vote. The presidency is the one office in this country that represents all of the people. You have a district representative, your congressman, you have a person who represents your state, or 2 people who represent your state, you have senators, and you vote for them in a direct way. It seems to me that we ought to have a direct election of the president of the United States. And if we did that, you would have Republicans who would be campaigning in California. The Republican would campaign in New York.
But when he says campaign, read television advertising.
Democrat would campaign in Texas. Now, it means that some swing states, smaller states, would not get as much attention as they do now. But I think the vast majority of people in this country would get a great deal more attention that they deserve.
As a member of the bar, I am disgusted by Eric Holder, the way he talks about this being a defect, and he said it, in our democracy. That's pretty outrageous.
Yeah.
This is a very typical...
It's not a defect in our republic.
Yeah, this is not a bug, it's a feature, Mr. Holder. It's the whole point.
To keep criminals like Hillary from getting elected.
Yes, it's a safeguard. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a safeguard.
Exactly. But no, it's a defect. We got to get rid of it. I'm just.
Well, this is
shocked,
all part of this game. This is this is just playing in the hands of the media that just they're getting greedy.
Well,
you got a guy like this, and they promote this kind of a speech, and the media is behind it because this all benefits them.
And let's just explain it one more time, because he actually said it. He's saying, hey, we'd have a lot of different people from different parties campaigning. We'd have Democrats campaigning in Texas. We'd have Republicans campaigning in California.
I've noted it and linked to it in various newsletters, and and I wrote this 14 years ago, saying that the Electoral College is doomed because at some point the media is going to look at it and say, hey, these guys are spending all this money in these various markets, but the big markets like California, where they just don't even bother to advertise because it's a done deal. This is not good. We can soak them if we can all of a sudden bring because right now, if you take a look at the popular vote that Hillary won, just take one state, California, out of the entire election, and she would have lost by 2 million votes in the popular vote.
Right.
It's all California. So what you're doing when you take the Electoral College out of the picture is just giving the whole country over to California. Well, that, of course, to counter that, you have to spend billions in advertising in California to try to get a few people to vote Republican, which they've been reluctant to do, but they'll do it.
Just got to remind everybody who rules the world.
And but the media is the one who benefits from this. This is the same thing with campaign finance reform, which will never happen
because of the same
if it even
issue.
Comes close, the media will push back against it in some sinister way because they're the ones who lose out with campaign finance reform. The media, it's not that it benefits anybody. It does benefit, some lesser candidates who can't get anybody to give them money.
Yeah.
But it doesn't benefit the media. It just means less money is being spent, and the media suffers. So they want more money being spent.
Meanwhile, the smart guys, or at least the ones who say they're the smartest in the room, aren't thinking about that at all. This is quickie, and then we'll go take our break. This is Brad Parscale, the guy who is credited with a lot of the Trump win through his Facebook campaigns and other social media, but I think mainly Facebook. I don't know where he was on. He was been on a couple of different shows recently, and I guess because it's all online, he is the Trump 2020 campaign manager currently. And he does something very interesting. When you go to a Trump rally, and I as you recall, I went to one before he was elected in Fayetteville, and no one asked me for my phone number upon entering, but I guess that is something they're now doing. So if you come in and say, okay, we want your phone number, I guess people give. I find this.
I would give I'd say ask for your email address. It seems less offensive.
These days, I feel if you have a phone number, you can match that with a phone ID. When you have a phone ID, then you can go to the data brokers and you can know if someone's, on the bus right now. So I'm a little apprehensive, but the same goes for an email address,
Well,
I
you
guess.
can just fake it. You can just give them some phony number.
Well,
the way women do in nightclubs.
Maybe people did, but there was some interesting data that he has been collecting.
So I think that from this Michigan rally, you can also see in the data, just like we saw in the El Paso rally, we saw new people coming. Democrats, 30, 40, 50% Democrats. You saw blue-collar Democrats, African-Americans, Latinos. You see him expanding. So this is opening up our map. When they came into the rally in Michigan, just like in El Paso, we require them to get their cell phone number, and we connect them back to the voter file. We know exactly how they voted in the past, what things they do. And we had tens of thousands of registrants. I believe it was 34% of the people that came to the Michigan rally were Democrats. Wow. I think that's a significant number. Almost half had only voted once in the last 4 elections. I'm harvesting nearly 1 million voters' data information in key swing states every month.
That must terrify the Democrats.
Yeah, we are, put it this way, we are 4 times ahead even where we were in 2016. I plan on being 6 to 8 times ahead in data. That's tens of millions of records. I hope to have every record for every voter I need by Election Day.
There you go.
You guys rocking it.
He says he's got 30, 40% Democrats showing up at the Trump rally.
That's pretty.
That would be very surprising to me. But
it wouldn't surprise me because I think Democrats. I think Glenn Greenwald.
Don't rough. Yeah.
He. I think he's kind of like indicating the problem, which is this bull crap. The general Republican Democrats aren't any dumber than Republicans. I think you hit the nail on the head a little while earlier when you said people are getting burned out by this crap. And yeah, there's the 2 million people that watch Rachel Maddow and they nod their head and they think that Trump's a rapist. And they're all in on that, and they're never going to vote for anybody but a Democrat.
But enough about your friends.
Yeah. There's plenty of Republicans on the other side that think the same way, but it's that group in the middle.
Yeah,
they're not going to vote for a Biden. They're not going to vote for anybody that I see so far that the Democrats are going to try to run.
Well, especially Michigan. He's their and I hope we have some information from our Michigan local one. What's the vibe over there? He says he's bringing back jobs. I think Ford is not bringing back jobs, but he had all kinds of announcements. A couple thousand here, a couple thousand there. So I think anyone who wants a job, if the guy's saying I'll bring you a job, I'm interested. In Michigan,
yeah.
Well, we haven't received anything from the local. And with that,
they're having a meeting today, by the way, the
big local one. All right. With that, I'd like to thank you for your courage and say in the morning to you, the man who put the C in Cosmic Weenie, John C. Dvorak.
In the morning to you, Adam Curry. In the morning, all ships at sea, boots on the ground, feet in the air, subs in the water, and all the dames and knights out there.
In the morning to all the trolls in the troll room, thank you for hanging around while we got everything going today. That is noagendastream.com, where you can always listen to the show and troll away, and sometimes people are helpful. Also, a hearty in the morning to Darren O'Neill. He does it again. I think one of the better pieces of artwork we've had in the past few weeks, just from a factual, actual comedic standpoint. It was a Monopoly get-out-of-jail-free card with Jussie Smollett, fake a crime and get out of jail free. And people liked this one, man. They thought it was funny. And he did 2 versions, very risky. He did one version without any prisoner number, and he did one version with the prisoner number, which was also the episode number 1124.
Now, here's why it was risky, and I'm going to tell him that he should be listening. If Adam, perchance, picked that as the pre-show art, which he didn't because he didn't even notice that it had the number on there, that would have negated the possibility that it becomes the show art.
Exactly.
Because you're not going to use the pre-show art as the show art, and that's why we discourage people from putting the number in there, because when people put the show number on there, it's usually only for the pre-show art. Now, if you want to pull that stunt, which you did was you send both those art pieces in, you wait till after the show's over.
Right.
Not over, I'm sorry, after the show begins, because the pre-show art's already been picked. Then you can throw that in there and not worry about this problem, which could have happened. And then that great show art that we used would never have become the show art.
That's right.
I think I confused everybody.
We are very happy, we're extremely happy we had it, Darren O'Neill. It really worked out well for us. This is an important part of our Value for Value network, where we don't have a network of podcasts. No, we have a network of producers, and they make one podcast together.
Yeah, we only do we don't do a network. We're not the No Agenda Podcasting Network.
No, we have a network of producers.
The Martini Network.
The Martini Network. Where'd you get that from?
The Gimlet.
Oh, I like that. The Martini Network. NoAgendaArtGenerator.com. You can take a look at everything the artists do there, and you can upload yourself, and it could be used in the show, pre-show, could be used in newsletters. You can make some money off it if it makes the No Agenda shop, where they make T-shirts and mugs and hats and all kinds of stuff, and it just seems to work out well for everyone. Thank you so much. And we have some executive and associate executive producers to thank for today's episode 1125.
Yes. Starting with Peter Barthel in someplace in the U.S., doesn't say, 333.33. Dear John and Adam, No Agenda is truly the best podcast in the universe. I've been listening since spring of 2016 and haven't missed a show since.
Wow.
Me and my family dairy farm in western Minnesota. Back in 2001, a Dutch family immigrated to Minnesota and bought a dairy farm 2 miles north of our farm. Cor and Siska are their two sons, Garrison and Kelsey. Oh, Cor and Siska and their two sons, Garyon and Kelsey. Cor came back to the U.S. on a temporary E-2 visa. He has to renew it every 3 to 5 years. He's been trying to obtain a green card and citizenship for the past 2 decades, but has gotten nowhere. Yeah, it's classic. But meanwhile,
well, he did it all wrong. You need to sneak in.
Sneak in.
What are you thinking, man? All right, you tried to do it legally. Epic fail. All right, so now what?
Since his sons turned 21, they're required by law to go back to Holland. His oldest son returned to Holland last summer. Now his youngest son is due to go back in June. He's about to lose his entire farm and be forced back to Holland with nothing in his pocket.
Wow.
He is literally on the verge of losing everything. I could go on and on about this story, but instead I will post a link where you can spread more about this. Please, fellow New Agenda listeners, Agenda listeners, go to change.org. Go to change.org and sign the petition to help Cor and his son. Oh, and Adam, Cor told me that you were his favorite DJ in Holland because Adam could speak perfect Dutch without an American accent.
Oh, yeah. Kind of, I guess. Yeah.
He's raised there.
Yeah.
Links below, and he's got www.care, K-A-R-E, by the way. It's KARE11.com. KARE.11.com, and then change.org, and then there's this long thing.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes, but care11.com.
But it's ridiculous.
I don't know what an E2 is. I'm not familiar with the E2 visa, so I'd have to look into it. But
well, how does this work with chain migration? Two Chinese come over here, open a restaurant in San Francisco, and next thing you know, there's 100 Chinese working there, and they're all fine. Somebody didn't do something right.
No.
Besides not sneaking in.
No, unfortunately, this is the system. The system is upside down. It's upside down. And, the elites in America don't want any smart people coming in, being entrepreneurs and stuff and making money. Maybe here's what you do. Do you have any illegals working on the farm? If not, get a couple, then go to your local municipality and say, hey, look, if I go, these poor people will have to go back to Mexico or wherever. That would be my advice. That's sad. It's a very sad state of affairs.
Sad but true advice.
I'm going to give some karma for these people. They definitely deserve it.
You've got karma.
Laat je niet kisten, Cor.
another disgusting story.
Yeah.
Baron Walkman of Ohio comes in with $333 from Louisville, Ohio. Adam, please read in your journo voice. Okay, you read.
I have a journo voice?
I don't know. Maybe
Okay.
the puker.
Adam, please find it in your heart to 80-20 this donation in favor of John. 80-20? This is not typical request. His years at PC Magazine prepared him for this career-defining moment. John's laser-focused crack investigative reporting broke the squirrel mail. It's not dead story. It's this type of tenacity, vigor, and unrelenting deconstruction we slaves have come to expect. Keep up the great work, John, and let that chair squeak! Squeak loud and proud! Love you both. Driving from Michigan again, Baron Walkman of Ohio. Well, no, there'll be no such thing as an 80-20 donation. He wanted squirrel mail, boom shakalaka. Well, we can do the... might as well do the... Because, now that squirrel mail is has a lasting shelf life, we'll be able to play the jingle in the future. And he wanted what else did he wanted? A boom shakalaka and don't rap while you're rapping. Okay, here we go. Thank you very much, Baron Walkman of Ohio. Thank you for your donation.
Boom shakalaka, boom shakalaka, boom shakalaka, and boom shakalaka. Don't laugh. Why you are laughing? Shut up.
You've got karma.
Sir Scott Nelson in Melbourne, Florida comes in at $331.19. This was the special donation. 2 people picked it up for train number 331.19, which was a toy train based on the Class 33 engines built between 1960 and 1962 by the British Rail.
It's definitely a no-agenda type of vehicle with its numerology.
Thank you, John and Anna, for more than a decade of entertainment so far. I think I'm eligible to be knight and it's not a sir yet. To be knight and haven't done the accounting yet. I could resist the chance for a special locomotive executive producer. I couldn't resist the chance for a locomotive executive producer credit, as I've been working on locomotive technology my entire career.
Oh, wow.
That's right. He wants to listen to that horn. By the way, John, the newsletter made me do it. I've got some research to do on the Class 33s, Scott.
Yes, and I believe, let me just check this for a second because I got a note about this. It is my belief that Scott Nelson, it will be knighted today. He did it on $4 a month, and he later up to $33 a month. And today he becomes a knight. So I don't just want to pass over the feat that he has done here. We're very happy. I guess he just topped it up here now, just to go and get it. I'd
like a report from him on high-speed rail in the United States.
Oh my God! Woo! Listen to that horn!
Thank you, Scott. Always good to get a foamer in there. We'll see you at the round table. You're the only one today. Looking forward to it.
Tom Homewood. I don't think so.
We have a second one?
No, not if you read the Baron JD's note. You said you wanted to incorporate that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You're correct. He's the only knight. Let's put it that way.
Okay. We have a dame.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Homewood, 330. There's the other 331.19 donation. He's in Reading, Berkshire, UK, so he's familiar with this train. Long-time listener, first-time donor. I've been meaning to donate for a while, but never seemed to get around to it. However, when I read the latest newsletter, I was too much to resist. I knew I had to donate right away. The Class 33 was a common sight in the region. I grew up in the region I grew up in, and as such, it's one of my favorites. They were popular and reliable back in the day, and many of them have been preserved. The 33/2 variant was the thinner version of the class that was built specifically for the line that goes through my hometown. It's widely believed that the extensive retooling required for these special locomotives led to the manufacturer going bankrupt. I started listening to you guys back in 2008, having found the show via Cranky Geeks. I particularly enjoyed the show Adam recorded from the cockpit while he piloted a plane from Guildford to Netherlands.
That was one of my better Daily Source Code episodes.
After a while, I drifted away, but I returned to the show for episode 792, and your insights and media deconstructions have been keeping me grounded ever since, whilst others around me lose their collective heads. This Sunday's show will be my 333rd episode. Thank you guys for so much work that you put into making the show the best podcast in the universe. Jingles, I'd like to request a 33 magic number followed by a foamer, please.
33, that's a magic number. It's the magic number.
Oh my God! Woo! Listen to that horn!
You've got karma.
And here we go with the John Donovan, Baron of JD, Baron of Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
He came in at 321.10. This came in late, or his note did. Please honor the Silicon Valley Baron's request for Sunday, March 31st, value for value, with a reverse Fibonacci 321.10 donation. That's kind of interesting. We need some good luck ice skating karma for our beautiful and talented human resource who is competing in ice dance in Vacaville, also known as Cowtown, California, today. Please add her birthday to the list, 17 on Tuesday, April 2nd, as Phinonymous.
Yep, she's on.
By my accounting, I have now donated enough to secure a damehood for her as a birthday present. Please dub her Phinonymous, Dame of the Flashing Blades, and add the following refreshments to the festive round table: Baba milk tea and ramen with spicy pork.
What kind of milk is that?
I don't know.
Baba milk.
BOBBA.
Yeah, I don't know. Baba milk. Well, it's on there. It's at the table. I've requested the minions to bring it for our dame. Yeah, it'll be.
He's got no jingles, no karma list. It doesn't say that.
Well, he does need a karma. Yeah, he needs a. Was specifically he wanted a good luck ice skating karma for Phinonymous.
You've got
there it
karma.
Is. Thank you very much, Sir JD, Baron of Silicon Valley.
Dropping down to associate executive producer, we start with Sir TJ of My Left Tongue 2 in San Jose, California, $222.22. Sent in a handwritten note, giant piece of paper with big giant letters. Hopefully this gets to you by Sunday. If not, aptly applied to the following show. Thanks, Terry.
Okay.
Sir TJ of My Left Tongue 2. P.S. A de-douching and two to the head.
You've been de-douched.
You ask, we play.
Sir Dan the Man in Cape Coral, Florida. Got a birthday coming up. Greetings, Podfather and Buzzkill. Please accept this donation to the BPITU. I would like a birthday shout out to my son, Ian, who turns 21 on 4/2. Additionally, I would like some super strong exam-taking goat karma to help me, as I will be sitting for the CISSP Certified Information System Security Professional exam on 4/1. Sincerely, Sir Dan the Man, protector of Cape Coral and the islands of Sanibel and Captiva.
Ah, they are so beautiful. My grandmother used to live on Sanibel. Here it is.
You've got karma.
Super strong exam-taking goat karma for Sir Dan the Man. Thank you for your support.
Last on the list is Jason Raddick from Philadelphia, who came in with $200, and there's no note here, so let me just take a quick look on Squirrel Mail. Let's see, how am I spelling Raddick? R-A-D-A-K. That would be the right way. R-A-D-A-K. Squirrel Mail goes to work.
Squirrel Mail is hard at work for you, for the show, for humanity. It's crunching away. How did it do?
No messages found.
Okay. All righty then.
So give him some gratuitous karma and that'll finish the segment.
You've got karma.
And that concludes our list of executive producers and associate executive producers for show 1125.
Yeah, and I'm keeping this in here. We are not a network of shows. We're a network of producers. And the producers is you. You are listening. Many of our producers produce in ways of providing content, stories, clips, artwork, ideas, promoting, hitting in the mouth. Others do the financial part when they can, and that's what makes it work. You always get out what you put in. If not, get away from us. Most people seem to get a lot of value back. And we will do another show on, what is today? Today's Sunday. Yes, Thursday. Now, that's where we need you to support us at.
Dvorak.org/NA.
You know that we've got everybody all lined up. We know who's going to be in the debates. We got it all.
Our formula is this. We go out, we hit people in the mouth.
That means you got to propagate.
Order.
Shut up, slave.
Shut up, slave.
And we will be thanking more people in our second segment, $50 and above. And thank you again for supporting the No Agenda Show, best podcast in the universe. All right, let me see.
Well, I got a couple of shorties here we can just kind of move through. Here's a good example. This was something similar to a clip we had earlier in the show where the guy got cut off. This is a very famous cut off. This is a recent show with General Jonathan Shaw, comes on Sky News to discuss the situation with Syria and what the Brits could do more. Could we kill more people? And he goes off on the idea that maybe the gas attack didn't make any sense back in the day. It doesn't. And you're the one that Trump got all bent out of shape and bombed the crap out of him.
Well, out of a runway.
Yeah, but he bombed the crap out of a bunch of runways, and he starts to go off in this. And so as he gets 40 seconds into it, in what's amounts to a 1-minute segment, after they cut him off because this is not what they want to hear on Sky News.
Do you think anything what we've heard from either Sergei Lavrov or indeed the Russian ambassador has made it more difficult for the UK to launch any kind of attack without putting it to Parliament?
Yeah, I think quite apart from all that, the debate that seems to be missing from this is, and this was actually mentioned by the ambassador, was what possible motive might have triggered Syria to launch a chemical attack at this time in this place. The Syrians are winning. Don't take my word for it. Take the American military's word for it. General Virgil, the head of CENTCOM, he said to Congress the other day, Assad has won this war, and we need to face that. So, and then you got last week the statement by Trump, or the tweet by Trump, that America had finished with ISIL and we were going to pull out soon, very soon. And then suddenly you get...
Okay, I'm very sorry. You've been very patient waiting for us, but we do need to leave it there. I'm very sorry.
Yes, very sorry.
Thank you very much indeed. More to come on Sky News. Do stay tuned.
So sorry. We can have none of that. Go away, please.
We don't want to hear
We
this.
can't have that. No.
You were brought on the show for a reason, a very specific reason. Oh, that's the clip
right.
I was in the second clip I wanted you to play because I kind of encouraged you to once in a while do this. I was hoping that you had queued up, or you could queue up you going on, I think it was CNN or one of these stations, to talk about Michael Jackson, and you were cut off.
Yeah, well, you should have added, that needs a little production because it's really long, that clip.
Yeah, okay. Well, but you did, this happened to you, which is years ago.
Well, it was also the last time I was ever on any cable news show ever.
Yeah, you got killed.
Yeah, because I said, hey, does anyone wonder if maybe Michael Jackson was killed and it wasn't just an accident? And thank you very much. We're moving on now to somebody else. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, that was my mistake.
Yeah. Jussie Smollett. And just need to do a little follow-up. There's a couple things to discuss. To review very quickly, all charges were dropped through his connections. And by the way, it wouldn't have been much different for anyone else in his position, famous or not. They could have received the same deal. The only problem is he swears on his mother that he was telling the truth, and everyone knows he's lying, and that's just a shitball thing to do. But his legal team continues to support him.
Clear with police on the night of the attack that his attackers
This is the Today Show and speaking with one of his lawyers.
were white. He said they had masks on and gloves, but he saw their eyes and he saw the skin surrounding their eyes. Was that a false statement?
So just to be clear, he only saw one of the attackers. One of them he didn't see. He saw one through a ski mask. Again, he could not see their body. Everything was covered, and he had a full ski mask on except the area around the eyes. He did tell police that from what he saw, he thought it was pale skin or white or pale skin was, I think, what he said. And that was and that's why he initially did have a hard time.
Why did he say that? He could have said, I don't know.
He could have, but this, again, he's being
truthful. If it's the Osundairo brothers, what are the chances that that's the case, that he saw somebody with light skin?
Well, I think there's... Obviously, you can disguise that. You could put makeup on. There is actually, interestingly enough, a video. I think police did minimal investigation in this case. It took me all of 5 minutes to Google. I was looking up the brothers, and one of the first videos that showed up actually was one of the brothers in whiteface doing a Joker monologue with white makeup on. And so it's not implausible.
I love this story. It just doesn't get any better.
Oh, man.
For a hate crime hoax to be perpetrated by two black guys who were in on it, and then to be accused of putting on whiteface underneath ski masks just to make sure the hoax looked real. And it's just a beautiful story. And it will go away, and I don't know what will happen with Jussie Smollett. Last night, now I think this was just coincidence that I said he'll probably win an NAACP award. And I guess he was already nominated, so maybe I read it somewhere, but it came
possible.
It came off the top of my head. But these were last night, and Chris Rock was the only person, I guess, who said anything about it.
I guess I gotta present an award. They said no Jussie Smollett jokes. Yeah, I know. What a waste of light skin, You know what I could do with that light skin? That curly hair, my career would be out of here. Fucking running Hollywood.
Very subtle what he's doing there, by the way, but I do appreciate it. And that's something you and I can't even say these things, but he can.
He's fucking running Hollywood. Yes, no, just... What the hell was he thinking? From now on, I ain't never gonna know you're Jesse from now on. You don't even get the you no more. That you was respect. You ain't getting no respect from me.
All right, Chris Rock knows how to kind of deal with it in a comedic way.
Yeah.
And now we can all say Jussie Smollett. So thank you, Chris Rock. That was complicated for us white people. In Chicago, the mayor, the police, everyone's still pissed off. I guess the police said, well, it cost us $130,000. You got to pay us for it, and we'll see what happens with that. Rahm Emanuel was the mayor initially, very, very angry. And Rahm has an interesting connection to lots of people, Obama in particular, and so did Smollett. His wife is good friends with Tina Chen, who is involved in this, who is also...
Yeah, he's also connected to Hollywood.
Well, his brother, Ari Emanuel, runs William Morris Endeavor, so it's a very, very connected group, and he was initially incredibly pissed off, and he is, but now he's been able to do a combination where he says, Jussie Smollett is wrong, horrible hoax, but we all know who's really to blame.
Look, I've always said from day one, this is a Trump-free zone, the city of Chicago, and I mean it. Let me be really clear about something. The only reason Jussie Smollett thought he could take advantage of a hoax about a hate crime is for the environment, the toxic environment that Donald Trump created. This is a president who drew a moral equivalency between people who are trying to perpetuate bigotry and those who are trying to fight bigotry. As somebody who started his own journey on politics, fighting the neo-Nazis in Skokie and then down to Marquette Park.
Now, I like this. I like where he goes from racism to discrimination to Judaism to anti-Semitism. He's all over the map.
President Trump should literally take his politics, move it aside. He's created a toxic environment. Now he's created a toxic, vicious cycle, in my view. The only reason Jussie Smollett thought he could get away with this hoax about a hate crime is because of the environment President Trump created. When we go back to Virginia, this is a person who said, and I quote, "There are good people on both sides." Well,
I'm getting really tired of people doing this. So Rahm Emanuel is lying here, and he's trying to make it sound like it's true, but it's not.
To Virginia, this is a person who said, and I quote, "There are good people on both sides." Well, let me break the news to the president. There are not good people on both sides.
He doesn't even get the quote right. It was fine people. And he specifically excluded the neo-Nazis and racists from it if you looked at the whole quote, what you're quoting, what you're misquoting.
People who perpetuate, advance the causes of hate. I say this as a Jewish American who knows what that means. My recommendation as the president, go to opening day baseball, sit on the sideline, stay out of this. You created a toxic environment, and all of us who are trying to make sure that we share a common set of values that embrace and welcome people of all walks of life and backgrounds.
It sounds to me like Rahm is more pissed off about a number of Democrats making anti-Semitic statements in the environment Trump has created, or maybe in the environment Democrats elected, than Jussie Smollett.
The question that comes to my mind is who came up to him and said, hey, you're getting off script here with this little anger thing of yours. You got to pull it back, rein it in, and let's blame Trump for something.
Yeah, well, I think his connections say enough. It looks like a lot of people called Rahm. Hey,
probably Obama being one of them.
Hey, remember, hate Trump. Oh, yeah, it's good.
So they fake hate crime. Mm-hmm. There's some guy on Twitter I should get I think his last name is NGO, which I don't know how to pronounce, but I think it's some Southeast Asian name.
Engo.
Who just documents one of these things after another, these fake hate crimes. And it's really abhorrent to do one of them. And instead of just targeting Smollett for doing it and condemning him, they blame Trump. It's just crazy.
No, it's the playbook. It's what we do. And meanwhile, and I'm pissed off about this. I would have at least liked to have known about it so I could have participated. Once again, because we have no news, we missed Earth Hour.
What?
Partial darkness falls over Hong Kong as cities around the world take part in a global event to push for action on climate change and other man-made threats to the planet. Earth Hour has grown steadily since the first event in 2007. Organisers say it is now marked in more than 180 countries and territories around the world. The Eiffel Tower in Paris and Rome's Colosseum were among the instantly recognisable landmarks that switched their lights off for the 13th edition of the event, which is organised by the environmental group WWF. This year, nearly 200 major landmarks were plunged temporarily into darkness.
Woo! Listen to them, those fools. They're celebrating the inevitable, which is rolling blackouts once we get
it. Celebrating rolling blackouts.
That's what it is. It's one big rolling blackout. That's what they're selling. And that's where we're headed with your wind and solar.
Now, I think that this is an opportunity, at least if someone wants to do a script. But I think in reality, some criminal should be planning. That's the time to plan some robberies.
Well, I didn't even know it was happening.
I know. Well, they didn't either, apparently, the criminals.
Well, I don't think the criminals knew it either. No one knew about it.
Well, they make more out of these things than it's actually, but this is, I guess, the biggest of the group.
So I got we'll stick with the Green New Deal just for a second, okay? This is a new. It's a blitz. It's an AOC blitz round. It's all very short, which is done purposely, and that was one of our producers did that, which we're very happy about. Otherwise, I would have skipped this segment. She had the big Green New Deal town hall on MSNBC.
Change takes courage. Change takes guts.
Defiant
rabble-rouser. Sometimes we call her the architect of chaos, champion for change.
She has clearly moved the needle on several key policy issues in her first weeks in Congress.
Whatever you think of her, you can't ignore her.
This is the fight for our lives. This is the fight of our lives.
Headliners: Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with Chris Hayes, Sunday at 9 on MSNBC.
So I did watch a portion of this. I think she did very well for her audience, and her audience is all in on everything, and we are, all in on stuff like this.
On the events of September 11th, 2001, thousands of Americans died in the largest terrorist attack on U.S. soil. And our national response, whether we agree with it or not, our national response was to go to war in one, then eventually two countries. 3,000 Americans died in Puerto Rico in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. Where is our response?
You see, it's tailor-made for this audience, and they love it, and they're all in on it, and yes!
Well, don't they know that the deaths in Puerto Rico were just a population, the normal, if you take a population that size over a period of time, that's how many people are going to die naturally?
Well, now you're trying to bring in logic, and remember, logic is elusive. So no, that's not what people think. They listen to the 3,000 dead, and they think, yes, you know what? All right, stop here. I've noticed a problem with humanity.
They're illogical?
Well, I'm going to work backwards from headlines. And most people today who say they're informed are reading headlines. And headlines, of course, more often than not, really do not portray what the story is. But we're witnessing a state of data compression within human cognition. And this came to me. I was watching some YouTube videos yesterday, and it doesn't matter whether it's Paul Joseph Watson or just some ditzy YouTuber, I guess maybe even PewDiePie. They all do the same thing, which to me, when I first saw it happening years ago, and I think Zay Frank started it with the show, was the jump cut. The jump cut where you pretty much every single sentence you say the sentence, and then you cut out every breath, anything that was said in between it, you jump right to the next sentence. Would you say that started with Zay Frank like 10 years ago?
I'm not absolutely sure who started it, but we have discussed this on the show, and it annoys me to no end.
And when
we talked about after one show, I think that's what it was, and you talked about, you at that time expressed some of your
concerns.
You're noticing that it now is actually required.
It is required, and so when I brought this theory to Tina yesterday, and I said, you know what I'm talking about? She said, no, and I showed her a video. I said, oh, yeah, of course, I'm doing it. This is what everyone does. I said, what do you call that? She said, bad editing. I said, that's what I would call it. That's what John would call it. But it is required. It is required for the same reason that people listen to the No Agenda show at 1.5 or 2 times speed. It is the same reason that people use emojis. It is the same reason that people, just like in text messages, one line, return, next line, return. It's the same thing. People are compressing and seeking different ways of technology to compress the information and get as much in as possible. I don't know if that's healthy. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it works, but it is happening. And that is why you get people all excited about a headline, because that's all they're processing. Everything is, people want more, they crave more, they're jamming it in, and the media has adopted to this. And Twitter is another perfect example. All these short form things, really one line, not a paragraph, one line, boom, next line, boom. That is how people want to consume information. And this is why we have a completely illiterate population. And I'm sure there's an exit strategy in this knowledge for us somewhere. I don't know. But this is what people are doing. And it's, quite frankly, when you look at the type of information people are consuming and the jump cuts and the process. Ben Shapiro, I think part of his success is that's what people want. They want, oh, yes, give me that line. Oh, yeah. And who else does this? Who else gives you the information in one sentence, memorable little beautiful bits, little nuggets? Who does that? Trump. There's something going on. Now, I'm amazed that people listen to us at all.
Postmodern, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And being postmodern, from my theoretical perspective on the whole matter, and your comment that it's required to have this form, and every talking head on YouTube, I've never seen one that doesn't use it. No one's out there just calmly speaking. They're bit, with their head jerking all over the screen.
Yeah.
It is, and it is required. You're right. It's some sort of a postmodern function, and I'm not sure. I kind of just go with it as such, and then as such.
Well,
but I don't know what it means. I don't know how it affects the public, but the public seems to demand it. And I think people are overlooking when it comes to this sort of thing that they kind of want this because the public is postmodern, and they don't know that that's why they vote for Trump.
Well,
and the other side is clueless about all of this.
Yes, very clueless. But the thing, it really hit home for me when I thought about why are people listening to our show at high speed? You know, it's like, I consider what we do art. So for me, it's like you're going to see the Mona Lisa and you jog by it, you know? if I can make a little comparison between the show and the classic piece of art. But it's because people can't stand the pauses. So that's not a production choice. That's a consumption choice. I believe Overcast, the app that Marco makes, it will leave your playback speed the same, but he chops the spaces out for you, creating the jump cut because it is a demand from the audience. They can't stand wasting a nanosecond of time. It's interesting.
Well, it gives them more time to do some online gaming.
Well, yeah. I'm not saying we're using our compression techniques wisely, but it is taking place. So anyway, I'll give you a couple of compressed nuggets from AOC from her Green New Deal thing on MSNBC.
We've got 12 years to turn it around.
Yeah, there you go. And this one?
We are going to be the frog in the pot of boiling water.
And now you know exactly what it was. That's it. That was her whole thing.
Well, her presentation skills are improving. She's remembering the script better. And it was obvious that Chris Hayes was Isaac Hayes. Chris Hayes, I can't remember.
Chris Hayes is right. Chris
Hayes was not going to go off script and ask her some hard out of the blue question that she couldn't answer because she wasn't scripted to answer it, which is the way to go with her, because then she'll go nuts with some, incredibly stupid commentary.
No, I think they were trying to actually achieve something. You have to remember, these people believe in this. They believe in it.
Yes, they do. They do. They're believers.
Even though they do not adhere to it, and I guess they kind of, maybe they don't, but I don't know what it is. We don't believe in it. We don't buy it. Let's put it this. It's not a religion. We don't buy into the phony baloney. We see no evidence of what they claim. So I think that's kind of what we take. And we've been following this from the very first scandal of the real climate gate.
And the original concept we used to always say, or I did for sure, why do they want to do cap and trade?
Yeah.
Do you have a neutral result?
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to stop everything from happening, you do cap only. And by the way, the far left progressives have been saying this from the beginning too. Why, if this is all true, why are we doing cap and trade? It makes no sense.
But that's not even on the table anymore. That's not even discussed. No one even cares. Now it's just
carbon tax.
It's just not even. It's just do something. Help. Do something.
Oh,
go back to the Paris Accord. Yeah, we're gonna die. Back to the Paris Accord. That's all that it is.
Well, it's gotten pretty weak.
No, it's extremely weak.
So I got an off the wall clip.
Okay.
So this reminded me of another clip, and you might get a clue what that other clip is, and maybe have it at the ready.
Okay.
Pelosi's in there chatting up something she's up to in the Democrats, and she says something profound, or she thinks is profound, and she literally requests applause.
Wait, does she say that's an applause line? I've heard her say that in the past. Is that what she does here? Oh.
We're going forward with the Protecting the Pre-Existing Condition and Making Healthcare More Affordable Act. That's a line for applause.
Yes.
Please clap.
Yeah, please clap. I just thought it was so lame. And then she giggles.
It's not giggling. It's it's something else. It's like a nervous thing. It's weird.
She's weird. Yeah. I got a couple more.
Hey, hold on. Did Lyft go public?
Yeah.
So they did IPO.
Yeah.
How'd they do?
Well, I think they IPO'd at 72, if I'm not mistaken, and then they jumped to 80.
Oh, wow.
And then it settled back, and I believe it's trading higher than it was released at.
So I kept this from last week. We didn't get to it on Thursday, or on Sunday. I'm sorry, on Thursday. God, I'm a mess. On Thursday, Sunday. Yeah, today's Sunday. Thursday.
Jeez,
I know. Just before, so Lyft was going to IPO. And Uber's going to IPO, and what did they do?
Drivers have been suffering very recently with harsh driving conditions as far as the pay is concerned, and it's just been made a lot harder with this recent 25% pay cut.
Yeah, so they cut the drivers from 90 cents a mile to 60 cents a mile, and these guys can barely make money as is. Just before the IPO.
Uber?
At Uber, and I believe Lyft too.
I don't know about that.
Uber for sure. I think Lyft did the same thing.
Well, Lyft's IPO was successful. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And Uber wanted to see what happened. This is a mistake, by the way. I don't remember the name of the company, but there was just before it wasn't a .com crash, but there was another previous crash in the 80s. I think it was 86 downturn. During the Atari game era, where these blocky games that used to sell, there was some company that had a whole bunch of hot games ready to come out, and then they decided to put off their IPO a week or two to see something going on from someone else, and then the whole economy took a dive, and all the companies went downhill. They never got their IPO out and went broke.
Never got out.
Never got out. And Uber should not have, they said, well, let's see what happens with Lyft so we can, hoping to nickel and dime, push it up a little more, maybe do a better IPO, or I don't know what they were thinking.
Sounds like a fractal.
They should have pre-IPO'd before Lyft.
This is a fractal. You might want to check that out, which company did that. I like the idea of this coming around and Uber never getting out before some kind of crash happening.
Yeah, it would be funny. I will look into it. It reminds me another one. There's two other examples of this kind of screwing up. Friendster.
Yep.
Had the opportunity to do a buyout, and they never did anything. And then there was that one company that was just kicking everyone's butt called News Point or something Point. And it was the one that fed news into your computer constantly.
Oh, no. That was...
It had the word point in it.
Oh, my gosh. Hold on. It was the screensaver. We've talked about this before. It was one of the first kind of streaming news applications. It was a screensaver, and everyone loved it because you could select different...
Oh, they loved it. Pointcast.
And everyone loved it until everyone in the company had it, and we were still on like one, a shared T1 line for the whole company.
If that.
And it would update, everyone's computer would update at the same time, and the network would come to a screeching halt. It's like...
Well, it was also chewing up everybody's local bandwidth.
That's what I'm saying. Our own network at the office came to a screeching halt.
I meant their network.
No, we came to a screeching halt at our office.
Yeah, and it became so we started taking it off, but they were offered a bunch of money because I knew one of the guys that was involved with that.
Did they mess that? I have a feeling they messed that up. Didn't they mess that up? Pointcast.
I think so.
I think they messed it up.
There was millions left on the table.
Poor saps.
This happens a lot. So Uber's susceptible to this.
I
don't know, but Lyft did have a successful IPO, which means Uber should have one, but they're going to have to they can't do another same type of IPO the day after, but they should get that thing in line and do it like as fast as
they're going to have personal drones, John. They're so much better. So they'll be landing everywhere. Right here downtown Austin, they'll land on the roof. It's great. Autonomous drones.
Yeah.
Fairy dirt, man. Fairy dirt. I've been tracking the credit companies and apps. And producers have been tracking this as well. I told you earlier about Credit Karma, which its majority shareholders Google. They have all the information on you. And if you think that the Chinese are nuts with their social score, your credit score is the American version. And I'm sure if not already, there will be comparable applications and companies in the rest of our listening area all around the globe. And if you have one, I'd like to know about it. So just like we predicted that the insurance companies would soon want you to track your driving behavior, we see Allstate download the app, get a better rate because the app allows them to track how fast you're driving, where you're driving, if you're speeding, if you're driving erratically. So that is already taking place. And I think people kind of understand that they're being tracked but it's not really being tracked. You're being taught how to behave. It is modifying your behavior. And that's what these credit apps are doing. So we have Experian, one of the three who collectively have the Advantage score, which has nothing to do with your FICO score, has nothing to do with your credibility according to the banks, your credit worthiness. That is the FICO score. That is not what this is. You're being hoodwinked if you think it is. It's just a credit score that they make up, and they make it up from their own data. We could do it too. We could have a no agenda score, and not a problem. But the way they're marketing this, again, without telling you that they will get you access to more cash to borrow if you only behave in the right way. And sometimes that behavior is just starting by installing the app.
Hey, so do you have any last-minute advice?
Well, you're going to be spending money on more than diapers. So you should raise your credit scores instantly with Experian Boost.
Instantly?
Yeah, and it's free too. You finally get credit for paying all those utility bills.
Okay, but don't you already?
Not till now, and only with Experian Boost.
We can get better credit cards.
Boost your credit scores instantly. It's free and only at Experian.com/boost.
See, I like this. They call it a boost. They control the score. So just by downloading it, you already, they'll say, your score is already improved. And then it's telling you, pay the utility bills. And when you pay the utility bills apparently first, or if you're maybe behind on one, then it will reward you with your score going up. And then you will get more credit available on your credit card. I think this is a very very, very, very evil plan, and it's being marketed. This is a young father, but it's being marketed to teenagers and Zoomers, and this is incredibly evil.
Huh. Well, I wasn't even keeping track of any of this.
Once you know what the scam is, once you know the score, and again, it's getting you to change behavior. Drive better. Okay, I'm driving better because I get a cheaper deal. Pay this bill first. Then you can get more money. You can get more credit so you can buy more diapers or whatever it is. Usually, you see the scene change and your house upgrades, your car upgrades, your girlfriend upgrades, everything upgrades. This is behavioral manipulation, and I just want everyone to be aware of it. Yeah, we also work on these types of neuro-linguistic programming, except we do it with jingles.
I'm going to show my support by donating to No Agenda. Imagine all the people who could do that. Oh yeah, that'd be fab.
Yeah, on No Agenda in the morning.
That's true.
Jingles and the fabulous, boy, this thing is squeaky.
Now he notices.
I just noticed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind Kyle Olin-Mann's the top of the list today's show. He's a $135 donor from Cincinnati, Ohio. Came in as one of those bank checks, along with Rene Labbe in I'm thinking it's Labby. Rene. By the way, yeah, it's an interesting spelling. L''ABBE, very Frenchy. In Santa Monica, California, she came in with a nice check of $100. Lee Whitaker, 8008. He is in Royal Tunbridge
Wells. And jobs karma at the end for you, definitely.
Ryan Kennedy in Andover, Massachusetts, 69. Baron Mark Tanner in his twice-a-month donation of 6789. Whittier. Sir Hamus in Mooresville, North Carolina.
Let's see what he has here.
666. He's got a little note here. Please accept this as a double invisible, no agenda podcast hat for my douchebag friend, William.
Okay. William?
Douchebag. He was butthurt over having to share a no agenda call out with another boner. He told me he would donate to the show if I righted this wrong.
Okay. Let me, Here's your no agenda hat. It's on the drone. It's on its way to you. Hold on. Here it goes. There we go. I love those invisible no agenda hats.
Yeah, and the invisible drone, and the things are made by invisible printers.
In an invisible
3D printers.
Yes, exactly.
Seth, and boy, you know those 3D printers that make those hats? Wow, are they fast.
The dynamite.
Jim Skousen, 6455, annual birthday donation. He's on the list. Seth Eckley in Bakersfield, California, another birthday boy. In this case, it's happy birthday to my smoking hot, small-boobed wife, Heidi. I'm sure she appreciates
that. That's nice.
6006 donation, along with Mark McCutcheon with 6006. Robert Bruckner.
That's a birthday. That's his sis. His happy birthday, sis, with the 6006 donation.
Yeah.
Way to go, sis. Bro.
Yeah. Well, maybe she'll come through with something insulting to him.
Yeah, I hope so.
Robert Bruckner, 5555. Chris Kincaid, 5510. Double nickels on the dime from Tyler, Texas. Neil Carpenter in Macon, Georgia, 5333. Sir Austin of the Snowy Cascades. In Sammamish, Washington, 5150. He needs some house selling karma. We'll give you that at the end.
For sure.
Shannon Adkins, 5050. Another sporadic donation, she says. Joseph Green, 5033. Peter Hollett, 5005. Long note there. What is he saying? Take a look at it. Peter Chong in Lakewood, Washington. Sir Brian Watson in Raleigh, North Carolina. George Oberhofer in New Brunswick, New Jersey. And he had a funny line. He had a handwritten check. And he put in the corner, you know how people like Sanity, like the lesbian does. And he writes reality check.
Oh, okay.
It's a check.
Oh, reality check. Got
it's
it.
A reality check.
Nice.
Liked it. And that's our list of producers for show.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, it's a very short list. We didn't do as well as last show, but we did enough to just getting by. To show 1125. I want to thank all these folks for helping us out.
Yes, and thank everyone who came in under $50. Typically, people are there on one of our subscriptions. We have a lot of them. Also, if you like to stay anonymous, that's another way to do just that, to make sure we don't mess it up. So it doesn't always work when you put it big and large at the top, but we try. But thank you for participating in this grand experiment that has been going on now it's our 11th season. I like saying season. It's our 11th season. We've had 11 seasons on the air, John. How about that?
11 seasons.
11 seasons.
It's actually 44 seasons if you count it that way.
We should do the math on it. And we do it twice a week. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll do another one. And please, I'd like you to support the work. Go to
Dvorak.org/NA.
Okay, couple karma requests for F Cancer and for jobs.
Jobs, and jobs. Let's vote for jobs.
You've got karma.
Hey, it's the last day of March 31st of 2019. Here's our list of birthdays. Rachel Wilson says happy birthday to her husband, Toby Daniel Baxter. Toby Daniel Baxter. And No, Toby. Boy, this is a mess. We'll try it again. Rachel Wilson says happy birthday to her husband, Toby. And Daniel Baxter says happy birthday to his son, Ian. He turns 21 on the 2nd. Jim Scouson's birthday. Seth Eckley says happy birthday to his smoking hot, small-boobed wife, Heidi. She turns 30 tomorrow. Mark McCutcheon celebrates his sister with another 6006. Finonymous, who soon will be the dame of the flashing blades, turns 17 on Tuesday. And Eric the Shill, our very own Shill, says happy birthday to his son Evan. He is turning 13 today. Happy birthday from Uncle John and Uncle Adam. That was rather painful. I got through it. Let's see, no title changes, but we do have 2 for the round table. So I'll got my blade here. Can you get it past the squeak? Nice. All right. Finonymous, step up. You know your daddy did it for you. Scott Nelson, we need you here as well. Both of you. Enter the round table of the No Agenda Knights and Dames for your support in the amount of $1,000 or more to the No Agenda Show. We cannot thank you more than by giving you the seat at the round table. I hereby pronouncate thee, Sir Scott Nelson, and Finonymous, Dame of the Flashing Blades. For you, we've got hookers and blow, rent boys and Chardonnay, Baba Milk Tea, and ramen with spicy pork, warm beer, cold women, pog and poi. We got harlots and haldol. We got pepperoni roll and pale ales, Rubenesque women and rosé, geishas and sake, vodka and vanilla, bong hits and bourbon, sparkling cider and escorts, ginger ale and gerbils, breast milk and pablum, and mutton and mead. A nice horn of the mead. Go to noagendanation.com/rings, and we'll make sure that those get out to you as soon as possible. We'd love to see Finonymous sporting that one on the podium when she wins one of these flashing blade competitions.
That'd be nice.
She can flash her dame ring. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Thank you. And remember, you can support us again on Thursday at Dvorak.org/NA. That chair. It's so unprofessional. Okay.
I'm wondering, see, the problem is I'm thinking about greasing it up, but I'm wondering if it's just because this is an old chair. This is an old chair I bought. I mentioned this to you off the podcast. Turns out that these chairs, we bought a couple of them for like $20 or $10 or something like that at some giveaway 20 years ago. And they're extremely comfortable. It turns out they're collectible now. Huh. And Jay showed me a picture. They're going for $350.
So that means you can't grease it up?
Well, I'm not sure. See, it's got a plastic bottom. It's a fiberglass chair with a comfy cushion. And I think it's the fiberglass itself that's creaking.
Oh. Yeah,
as
that's
opposed
a problem.
To something else.
Oh.
I think it's just creaking. And I'm wondering if I can, I don't know.
Well, we'll just have to live with it. I mean, it's only a podcast.
It's such a great podcasting chair.
Yeah, you don't hear this over on any Gimlet Media produced shows. I'm just saying.
No, they have top gear there. they have the best of everything.
I'm in a closet, and I'm in a closet, and John's on a chair from the 30s. That's our podcast. That's our podcast, everybody. Well, I didn't think CNN would do it, but they did a pretty detailed report of the problem at the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Good for them.
I think that's surprised me. And the reason why is every single fact-check network has the Southern Poverty Law Center in its midst, which is now just scandal-ridden. It's a 2-minute report, but worth listening to the mainstream take.
Since its inception, the group has fought for equal rights against some of the more infamous hate groups of our generation, like the KKK. But 2 current employees told CNN the Southern Poverty Law Center fell short in guaranteeing equality for its own staff. The employees we spoke to would not go on camera out of fear of retaliation, but one told CNN the SPLC suffers from a systemic culture of racism and sexism within its workplace. A second employee agreed. It's an environment, one of the sources says, where black employees are not being promoted despite being qualified. A workplace where a woman is made to feel she is not seen or heard. Said one employee, "My boss only hires white people." But now some employees say the group has to practice what they preach. It's bad, one employee, speaking on condition of anonymity, said. The rank and file are deeply divided. The employee describes the current upheaval at the SPLC as a revolution against the organization's longtime leadership, initiated by employees, tired of seeing the pervasive culture exist and go unchallenged by those in charge. The SPLC declined CNN's request for an interview. They did not respond to the specific claims made by some of their employees to CNN, but they did send this response from his board of directors chair, Brian Fair. We acknowledge and take very seriously the significant concerns that our talented and deeply committed staff have raised.
At the Law Center, we see the solutions to these issues involving race and justice is not simple.
The claims come after the firing of co-founder Morris Dees on March 13th. The SPLC says the 82-year-old was terminated after 2 separate investigations into alleged misconduct. They would not be more specific, citing privacy of personnel matters.
Hi, Morris. My name is Nick Valencia.
Dees did not respond to multiple attempts to reach him about his termination. An SPLC spokeswoman said in a statement regarding Dees' firing, no one, no matter that person's position at the SPLC, will be exempt from scrutiny and accountability. After Dees came the resignation of Richard Cohen, the longtime president of the organization. Cohen did not return calls. In a staff email, Cohen stepped down after 16 years at the helm. We've heard from our staff that we need to do a better job of making sure that our workplace embodies the values we espouse: truth, justice, equity, and inclusion, he wrote. While some of our sources have been critical of the culture at the SPLC, they acknowledge that the organization has done important work in shedding light on extremism. CNN spoke to one woman who said, "A lot of the claims were greatly exaggerated. I'm completely happy here. We have many women in leadership." But in recent days, the SPLC's female legal director also resigned. We reached her, but she would not comment.
Rats leaving the ship, jumping off.
I have a different take on this.
I know, and I like that. I like that you have a different take on it. The only reason why I'm surprised or a little irked that it's not discussed is the Southern Poverty Law Center is at the center of every single bit of the fake news story, and specifically Facebook, which I have another clip about. They are the ones that are supposed to be tagging people who are bad.
Yeah, bad. You're bad. Well, here's what I think happened. First of all, you can't make this. It's this CNN's fault when they say the problem that none of the black people were ever there, even though they were qualified, they were never promoted or ever got a raises or whatever they didn't get. And then the next sentence is he only hires white people.
Right.
How did the black guy get in there? And by the way, when I see representatives, they seem to be from South Asia, India, and Bangladeshi types. Anyway, here's what I think happened to this place. It fell apart from its own success, and I would associate this with Gimlet podcasting and the people going
all of
and unionizing.
You're right. Yes, it's the revolution eating itself in a way.
So what happened with the Southern Poverty Law Center is that a couple of years ago, and somebody sent me a little memo. One of our producers sent me a memo outlining this. They decided that they're going to got to get some more money in their coffers because everybody's working their asses off, and it's a work for love for work kind of place. Everybody's happy as a clam, and so they say we're gonna get a war chest of $50 million, and we're going to spend all of our time. And once we get to $50 million, then we're going to go, get back to work. And they got $50 million in donations very easily.
And they went, "Hey, that was fun."
That's exactly what happened. And they said, we got to 50. Let's get 100. And they got the 100.
Yeah.
And then they got 200. And then they got a war chest of $400 million. And they were just having the time of their lives. And all the employees are around there going,
"Hey, wait a minute.
Hey, we're not getting any of this. We still have to volunteer for this. We're getting minimum wage.
Yes.
You got $400 million in the bank, and we're just working our asses off here. And you're not sharing any of this." Same with Gimlet podcasting.
Yeah.
And so they didn't share the wealth, and they got roasted.
I think that's a very decent analysis. I have nothing to argue with it whatsoever. You're right.
You can't do this. You're kind of a semi-volunteer do-gooder organization, and all of a sudden you get so greedy.
They're not semi.
It turns out you can really fundraise, and who knew?
No, they're a proper they're a registered nonprofit. They're a 501(c)(3) corporation with a hell of a lot of money, which I think they should be forced to spend. By the way, most good nonprofits, they have their own rules. They certainly have their bylaws that they have to spend. They can't just rake it in and sit on it and put it in.
These guys have done.
That's exactly what they've
probably
done.
gone on a lot of expensive vacations.
Oh yeah, and which irks the worker bees even more.
Yeah.
You're so right. You're so right. Well,
it wouldn't hurt to give the worker bees a free vacation, or it doesn't hurt to share the. You don't have to be sitting on that kind of money. Millions, $400 million is a lot by anybody's standards.
Well, they, as I said, they are the center of the face bag content screening policy. So they help make up the rules, identify who's bad. And actually, Zuckerberg. Let's see. These two clips go hand in hand. I'm kind of thinking which one I shall play first. I think I'll play the Zuckerberg's new move. I don't know where the stock is. I haven't looked at it for a while, but I think they're in deep, deep trouble. I think people are running away from the service.
Well, the stock has not gone down. And the DH Unplugged show, we've had a running gag about this.
Mm-hmm.
Horowitz is always shorting it, and I say, don't short it, and he's always, it doesn't work out.
Well, that's because it's not just Facebook. They have other properties that are performing quite well that are not that visible. But Zuckerberg has called for a global set of rules.
The chief executive of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, has called for new rules to regulate the internet.
Hey! Woohoo! Go, Marky!
This just 2 weeks after a gunman used Facebook to live stream a terror attack on mosques in New Zealand.
Hey, stop the clip. Whose idea was it to put live streaming on Facebook, encouraging this sort of thing?
Zuckerberg.
Was it your idea?
No.
Whose idea was it?
Zucky.
Oh, and then he's bitching about it.
Well, no, he's not bitching about it. I've learned from our producers in New Zealand that the media there is going, and I've said, please send me some links. I need some clips. They're going nuts. Everything is now blamed on social media, particularly Facebook. Everything. It's all Facebook's fault.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with anything else. Okay, go on.
No, of course not, but it's fun to watch.
New Zealand. Well, Mr. Zuckerberg now says things must change, and in a statement he's called for regulation of what he describes as harmful content online, saying private firms can't do this alone. He says there should be new rules related to political advertising and the creation of common standards. There should be effective privacy and data protection for all users, with countries adopting a common framework. And he's also called for data portability. That means people should be able to move data from one service to another.
What?
Yeah. No,
well, you can do that.
Yeah, but he's just blowing wind, blowing smoke up everybody's skirt. No one gives a shit. He's not going to last
long as the CEO if he keeps this up.
Thank you. He's toast. But he's doing something very interesting over there on Instagram, which is a Facebook property, and that is the conflation of, or is it conflagration of white supremacist and white nationalist. These are now one and the same.
Now, Facebook has announced that next week it'll begin banning white nationalism and white separatism content on both Facebook.
I'm sorry, separate? No. But I think it's interesting. I think they say supremacy later on. I even misheard.
Do you
this.
know any white separatists personally?
No, isn't there? I'm sure there's some small groups of like 10 guys in the woods somewhere.
I've never met one.
No. But it doesn't matter. It just makes the white nationalists sound that much worse, which is that's the idea here.
Now, Facebook has announced that next week it'll begin banning white nationalism and white separatism content on both Facebook and Instagram, which it controls. How did white separatism and white nationalism begin to flourish there in the first place?
All of these platforms have really taken a hands-off approach. They really haven't policed white nationalism or white separatism to the extent that they have other extremist movements. I mean, the New Zealand shooting, I think, was hopefully an inflection point where it's becoming increasingly clear that they have to crack down on this stuff, because not only is this kind of extremist content running rampant on the platforms, these platforms are facilitating its growth. The big problem with Instagram, though, as opposed to Facebook and Twitter, is that a lot of these big white nationalist figures, for example, there's a huge cadre of people that are part of the Identity Europa movement. This is a white nationalist, white supremacist movement, and they're not exactly espousing their ideas on Instagram, but they're normalizing themselves. So a lot of them are adopting influencer strategies where they're kind of actually just posting about their lifestyle, posting themselves at nice events, dressed up, and people will follow some of these white nationalist figures, aspire to their lifestyle, and then end up becoming introduced to their ideas. You know, they'll go ahead and Google them. They'll start watching their YouTube videos. They'll start reading contents on a blog, maybe. So they're more susceptible to that.
Okay, let me get this straight. So, apparently, the evil white nationalists, white separatists, and she said it there, white supremacists.
Yes, it's slipped in there.
They are taking the influencer model of just dressing up nice, talking, going to events, you know, and just kind of being a human being, a nice person. But because they're doing that, it's so sneaky, then, you know, you'll probably Google them and you'll probably get sucked into a world where you feel at home. What the fuck, people?
This is ludicrous.
That's NPR, too. That's NPR.
Yeah. Well, NPR is lost cause. It's really
but
good.
It's just taking...
In the lifetime of our show, we have watched NPR become a lost cause.
Yes, you're right.
It started when we first started using that clip of that woman who was the CEO of NPR, who was still floating around, that talked about advertising as NPR is one of their fundamental ways of making money.
I think I have that one here.
Rich Rodriguez.
No, that's not it. It's we play that so often. It's advertising. No, it's sponsorship.
Underwriting, advertising, whatever you want to call it.
Underwriting. That's what it was. Underwriting. And why can't I find that? That really pisses me off. Jesus. Sorry.
It's okay.
Didn't mean to. It makes me mad. It
was
harsh,
my mellow.
It was NPR, whatever you want to call it. Here it is. Call it. Now I know why. It's mislabeled.
Okay, moving on to money. How are NPR's corporate underwriting revenues holding up in the recession? And what about foundation grants?
Two different stories. Underwriting is down. It's down for everybody. I mean, this is the area that is most down for us. Is in sponsorship, underwriting, advertising. Call it whatever you want.
There it is.
Yeah, Vivian Schiller.
Vivian Schiller, yes.
Who's still out and about doing things very similar.
Sure. We're the schmucks.
Yeah, we are.
We're the ones that are doing it all wrong.
The squeaky chair.
You got the closet.
It's ridiculous.
We got, stringing up wires and clothespins to get it on the stream. Yeah. Oh, if only we could be Gimlet. Okay, Venezuela. I have 2 clips on Venezuela, which I'd like to share. I don't know if you have anything else.
I thought I'd have a clip on Venezuela.
Okay.
I got the Gaza protests. I got a pre-clip. I want to play this and get it out of the way.
Okay.
Just so we know this is going on, because PBS, the only one seems to be reporting on it. Cholera in Mozambique.
Oh, it's about time.
In Mozambique, the number of cholera cases among cyclone survivors has risen to 271, double yesterday's total. The new cases are in the city of Beira, where 500,000 people are at risk of contracting the disease that is spread by contaminated food and water and can kill within hours. The World Health Organization said 900,000 cholera vaccine doses are expected to arrive on Monday.
Along with the UN.
Yeah, blue helmets. You know what that brings?
Cholera.
Yeah, that's right. It brings extra cholera. The president issued an executive order to prepare for an electromagnetic pulse attack.
Really?
Yes. He did. Executive order on coordinating national resilience to electromagnetic pulses. He did. You have pretty much the same response as the Washington Post. The Washington Post said, "You don't need to worry about a nuclear EMP. Here's why." And then they go straight into...
I didn't have that tone of voice.
No. They went straight into James Bond-like stuff. President Trump believes the danger of an EMP is not just a Hollywood plot device. He recently announced an executive order meant to protect the United States from an EMP, directing federal agencies to coordinate the assessing, planning, guarding against its risks. And
I don't think there's anything wrong with that sort of safety precaution.
But they poo-poo it. Like, he's fantasizing now about James Bond stuff.
Maybe he knows more than we do.
That's what I'm always worried about. When Trump, why would he come out of the blue and issue this?
Well, maybe it's got something to do with aliens. We never talk about that enough.
Well, sorry. What can I
stopped you in your tracks.
I mean, yeah, you're right. But there's not been any good stuff. It's kind of mainstream. Flat Earth didn't land on the moon. Although, wait, where was this? There was an actual article.
Flat Earth. That one's the worst.
There was an article about this. There was an article that basically said, if you believe in these things, then you're a nut job. Now, here it is.
Well,
no. Here,
article anytime you want.
It's better than this. Here we go. This is from the New York Post. Okay. If you're a birther or a 9/11 denier, chances are you aren't much fun to be around. Well, it depends if you have a podcast.
That's bull crap.
We've been saying this about our whack job uncle for years, but now it's back.
It's always the whack job uncle.
And it's backed up by science. That's right. People who buy into outrageous conspiracy theories say...
you mean like Trump was a Russian spy?
Wait.
Is that the kind of thing they're talking about?
No. Outrageous conspiracy theories.
You mean like Trump was a Russian spy?
No, not even close. Like that no human has ever walked on the moon or the ancient pyramids were built by aliens. Are more inclined to actively engage in antisocial and, yes, criminal behavior.
Oh, the criminals. That's a good one.
That's the main finding of a team of psychologists from UK's Staffordshire University and the University of Kent, who investigated the wider impact these paranoia-fueled fringe beliefs can have on behavior. Quote, our research has shown for the first time the role that conspiracy theories can play in determining an individual's attitude in everyday crime.
Yeah, the crime being you're giving too high a ratings to the History Channel.
It demonstrates that people subscribing to the view that others have conspired might be more inclined toward unethical actions.
Why?
Now here it comes. With contemporary conspiracy theories targeting everything from myths surrounding the Mueller report to the chilling secret behind Disney's Frozen, this cultural phenomenon is certainly ripe for clinical exploration.
They slipped in a little pun.
Yes. The Disney?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's bad form.
Yeah. So there you go. More prone to criminal behavior. Well,
that makes sense to me.
Let's hear from one. This is Elliot Abrams. He was caught by the BBC to talk about Venezuela, and I'm doing AOC. And the first clip here is, the obvious.
Mr. Abrams, do you find it difficult to walk into a room acting as an honest broker when you have this very controversial history in the region?
The United States is not trying to be an honest broker here. The United States has a position, which is this is a vicious dictatorship that is destroying Venezuela.
But in your past, you supported dictatorships, authoritarian governments that committed human rights. Does that not compromise your ability to work in this situation?
I think you have not read the history of this. Oh? What we did in the Reagan administration, what I did was to try to help the greatest tide of turning from military dictatorship to democracy that we've ever seen in Latin America. It's a record of supporting democracy and the expansion of democracy, of which we're very proud.
Yeah. Of course.
That plays right into the aid stopped clip from PBS.
Ooh, hold on. Here we go.
State Department announced today that it will suspend 2017 and 2018 payments to the three countries. The move comes one day after President Trump threatened to shut down the U.S.-Mexico border over immigration and said that the cuts were already in place.
I've ended payments to Guatemala, to Honduras, and to El Salvador. No money goes there anymore. We were giving them $500 million. We were giving them tremendous aid. We stopped payment to Honduras, to Guatemala, and to El Salvador. We were paying them tremendous amounts of money, and we're not paying them anymore. because they haven't done a thing for us.
Democratic members of Congress who were visiting El Salvador today called the aid cutoff, quote, entirely counterproductive.
And that folds beautifully into the next clip. We go back to Elliot Abrams with the BBC talking about all options, including, well, you know what, still being on the table.
Live, because the Russians flew in 2 planes. That's not going to do it.
Venezuelans on the street have been saying, it looks like this is going to last a little bit longer. Now, I want to ask you, how does Maduro know that all options on the table isn't bluster? I mean, he seems pretty convinced that he can wait you out on this.
I think you're right that he is convinced of that, or intermittently convinced of that, and just thinks, I'll just stay here, the Americans will get bored or they'll go away. I remember a guy named Manuel Noriega who thought the same thing. The Americans will just go away. There's no reason for me to take a deal and leave the country. He ended up in an American federal prison. So my advice to people in Venezuela who think that all options is kind of a joke or symbolic, it doesn't mean anything, don't test the president on it.
There is a
Not so subtle threat.
No, but what do they have? I mean, they got no. Do they have any ammo left? It doesn't. By the way, I find this to be. I don't like the sanctions either. I mean, not.
He's out of control.
We're not doing it right. This is a cluster. The big cluster.
Well, yes, because the neocons have taken over. If you haven't noticed, they've slipped in ever since Bolton showed up. The whole Trump administration has gone off the rails regarding its real promises. You have to remember when Trump ran, he was talking about the stupid Syrian war and why are we there in the first place? Hey, hello, we're still there.
Yeah.
This is a lot. This is kind of I'd say a fractal of Obama when he says, first thing I'm going to do, take it to the bank. I'm going to get everyone out of Iraq and I'm going to shut down.
You can take that to the bank.
Yep.
I'm going to shut down Gitmo. He never shut down Gitmo. And Trump, it's because all these neocons got into his administration, the Kagans and the Noodlemans, all the rest of them. And it's the same thing happening with Trump, Bolton and and Abrams. These guys are all in bed together. It's just not, this is a plague, these people. And I don't know why Trump can't see it.
Yeah, there's something weird with that. And it's not good for people.
That's what we're stuck with. At least we're watching them.
Yes. All right. Do you have one more clip we can do? We can get out of here. I got some cool end of show mixes.
Crazy guy got the protests in Gaza.
It's okay. It's okay if we're just done.
Oh yeah, I got the end of Alex Jones's deposition.
Oh,
on the Sandy Hook case.
Yes.
Where that you see headlines all over the place. Alex Jones admits that he's like insane. It was insanity or some crazy stuff.
No, that he got. Well, first of all, let's explain what this is. He is being sued for harassment, I think also defamation, by one or more parents of the Sandy Hook.
Harm.
He's being sued for harm?
Yeah, harm.
And so apparently what I've read, and again, this is just our human compression algorithm, I pretty much read headlines. He says, I was insane. I got swept up in it. I didn't know what I was doing. It was nutty. Is that yes?
There's a bit of that, but the real gist of the whole thing and what you see for headlines does not reflect what you're going to hear, which is that Jones play it.
Kind of like a child whose parents lie to him over and over again. Well, pretty soon they don't know what reality is. So long before these lawsuits, I said that in the past I thought everything was a conspiracy, and I would kind of get into that mass groupthink of the communities that were out there saying that. So now I see that it's more in the middle, and so that's where I stand.
Mr. Jones, are you finally prepared to admit that you have indeed caused these families a substantial amount of pain? Are you prepared to admit that?
I am not prepared to sign on to whatever you and the mainstream media make up about me.
All right, Mr. Jones, that'll have to be it. I'll see you next time.
Oh, well, hold on a second. That's a little different than the headline.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Let me just hear that last bit here.
Finally prepared to admit that you have indeed caused these families a substantial amount of pain. Are you prepared to admit that?
I am not prepared to sign on to whatever you and the mainstream media make up about me.
All right, Mr. Jones, that'll have to be it. I'll see you next time.
All right. So are people just passing headlines? It's pretty sketchy as to what he actually meant.
The whole thing is a joke.
No, I'll talk to...
I mean, and Dave Jones is, he's doing the best he can. But he's right. There's whatever you make up about him, he's not a... It's just what it is.
I'll get the inside scoop from Sir Ducifer. He'll let me know what's happening. Find out what's really going on. And with that, we conclude our broadcast day. From the studio and the creaky chair. Because that's who we are, people. No unions. No under-the-table payments. It's all above board. It's all right there in the show notes. And we like to do it twice a week. We'll do another one on Thursday. Until then, coming to you from downtown Austin, Texas. It's the capital of the Drone Star State, FEMA region number 4 on all the governmental maps. 6, I'm sorry, if you're looking for them. In the 5x9 Cludio in the common law condo. Until Thursday, remember us at dvorak.org/NA. And I say, in the morning, I'm Adam Curry.
And from Northern Silicon Valley, plain and simple, I'm John C. Dvorak.
We return on Thursday with another episode of the No Agenda Show. Until then, adios, mofos, and such. And special thanks to our end-of-show mixers. We've got Jesse Coy Nelson, we've got Tom Starkweather, and microwaved wet beach towel.
Come and listen to a story about a douche named Smollett. A Hollywood star barely kept his ego fed. Then one day he came up with a plan. Said he got beat up in Chicagoland. Hate crime. Gets blacks and gays. MAGA hat. Next thing you know, his story begins to stink. Social justice warriors just don't know what to think. Where's the 2 white guys who are gonna take the rap? The cops investigated, it was a load of crap. Lie, that is. Didn't happen. No noose, no bleach.
I've been truthful and consistent on every single level since day one. I would not be my mother's son if I was capable of one drop of what I was accused of. This has been an incredibly difficult time. Honestly, one of the worst of my entire life.
So when you see a group of people and they're the ones without that black thing going around there that's tightened it up, it's like a band. If they're not wearing that, that's usually someone who's an extremist. Super terrorist. Super terrorist.
Super terrorist.
Don't drone me,
bro. Don't drone me, bro. That's our policy. If you walk like a terrorist and talk like a terrorist, dang nabbit, you're a terrorist, son.
Super terrorist. Super terrorist.
Super terrorist. He said, "Oh, Sakbar!"
Don't drone me.
Yeah, don't drone me, bro.
You're the president and you're sitting across from me right now.
That's true. I produce more than I promised. True. It's true.
That's true.
It's true. It's true. It's true. That's such a true story.
In the summertime when the weather is hot, you can stretch right out and find you a spot. In the summertime, you got Dookie, you got booping on your mind. So just bend on down, push it out and see what people find. If your stool is hard, it'll roll down a hill. If your stool is loose, just do what you feel. Crap along the lane, blast a sidewalk, or just go behind a car. When the sun goes down, we all know that pooping is what streets are for. So sing along with us, beep, 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 beep. Do-do-do-do-do, yeah, we're crap happy. Do-do-do, beep-boop-boop-beep-boop-be-da-da-da. Bring your poop map, or in San Francisco you won't get too far.
I do want to respond in this way. You might think that's okay.
They chose to hide behind secrecy and broker a deal.
My colleagues may think it's okay.
I think we're all a little confused. I'm confused.
To be perfectly honest with you, Wolf, I'm completely confused.
You might think it's okay.
Because of the judge's decision, none of that evidence will ever be made public.
My colleagues might think it's okay.
Member states are reluctant to transfer new sovereignty and powers to the European Union.
You might think it's okay.
He
proceeded to plant a big slow kiss on the back of my head.
I don't think that's okay.
We are getting our first leaks from the Justice Department.
You might think that's okay.
People pay extra to get their kids a special position in universities.
My colleagues may think it's okay.
The former vice president inappropriately touched and kissed her head.
I don't think that's okay.
The list I would start with are Comey, Clapper, Brennan, and other people in the FBI who perpetuated this absurd lie.
My colleagues may think it's okay.
Yeah, we're not allowed to read the report. We have a new faith-based justice system.
You might say that's all okay.
Democrats are planning to ride that conspiracy theory to victory in the election next year.
You might think that